Did you swindle a guy out of the 1936 equivalent of $250,000 and end up on the run from both the crooked police and the mob boss you unwittingly ripped off? Did you narrowly avoid meeting an untimely end multiple times, unlike your friend and mentor who pulled the initial con with you? Did this all make you so upset that you could only think of one way to get even, and that was to go to Chicago and make friends with one of the few guys who might be as hot as you, to team up with said hottie for the big con of a lifetime? If so, you may have been punched in the gut in a Joliet alley by Charles Durning in the Unkind Rewind, where we watched the smash hit Best Picture winner of 1973, The Sting.
Thrill me.
I'm gonna name you Kodum. You get a name too, Podum.
His name is Happy Harry Hardon. He's a total sex maniac. Of course.
Greetings from St. Paul, where I, Josh Dugan, have been searching in vain for my old-timey grifter nickname to no avail. As always, I am joined by my co-host Sean McGrath. Sean, have you visited Edith Head on the Universal lot to be fitted with your stylish 30s threads yet?
Yeah, except they gave me the outfit for like a hobo joke teller.
Okay.
So I'm like in 56 wide jeans.
Sure, right.
Yeah, like, I don't know, 22 inseam.
They thought you were there for the Little Rascals or something instead of...
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you got paid to tell jokes at a striptease show in the 30s, but that's all the work, really, I'm getting in New York.
On the line this week, we're joined by podcast producer and movie show host, Forrest Miller. Forrest, have you been working on your card tricks to roll mob bosses on their train car poker games?
I wish I knew. This is one of those movies that really makes me wish I knew how to play poker.
Yeah.
I've like, there's plenty of, like, blackjack, stuff like that. Like I've obviously played that, but like, I really wish I knew how to play like a good game of poker, because it seems so fun.
Yeah. Especially if you're playing the part of the drunk asshole like Paul Newman is here.
Well, especially if you're like seamlessly cheating too, Forrest. That's the thing too, because you could learn all the ins and outs of poker and still be kind of taken. I think you want to win too a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it reminds me of the Sopranos scene where they take down Junior's game. Because like the one thing that Tony lets Junior still do is like run his card game every month or whatever, when he's like, sentenced his uncle to oblivion, and it's like, I don't know, like those games look so much more fun. But yeah, it makes a lot more sense that it's $256,000 that he
adjusted for inflation.
From the beginning. Yeah, like, because I remember being like younger, I'd be like, 11,000 doesn't seem like, really, the guy, they're gonna go to, like, they're gonna kill this guy and his his like basically uncle, his con artist uncle, for $11,000. But it's like, oh no, that was
like
that
a
was
$250,000.
Yeah, and that's mid depression.
Yeah,
we haven't got into the war yet.
Well, because they remind you at one point, they're like, in the middle of this depression, just to like remind you, like, oh yeah, this is, which, it's the 70s, and it's like, what is it, 70? Yeah, 73. It's like the same time.
Yeah, it's like 36, 37 years earlier is when they're setting the movie. It's like if we set a movie today in like 1988.
Yeah, it's like Stranger Things, but like even more recent than that.
Yeah.
But it's also like, it's the same year as, not that they knew this was going to happen, but like the OPEC crisis, which was like one of the big things that really like freaked Americans out. Like, oh shit, this economy that we're like living through is under, is on a very hollow base. Like before that, they didn't really have that thought as much. I mean, I think there was another like oil crisis during like the oil shock during Nixon or something, like before the actual OPEC crisis. But like, so they're kind of feeling this precarity at the same time, going through this moment.
This is probably the earliest in any episode, Josh, you can back me up on this, that we got into OPEC. I don't know what the timing is right now, but it seems pretty quick.
The crazy thing is, and you're not going to want to hear this, but looking at the inflation calculator, that $11,000 in 2020 was $200,000 or $3,000. So in fucking 5 years,
oh my god,
that's been inflated by $50,000.
Did you do the math on the big take when he brings 500,000?
I mean, I can do it real fast.
Yeah. So when Lonergan brings 500,000 in 1936 or whatever, that's got to be
$11 million.
I knew I'd looked it up at one point. Yes, 11.6.
Yeah. $11.6 million, pretty much. So when he is really feeling it, right? Like, because now you think, I know, like $500,000. You're like, all right, well, that's like an all right, like, couple bedroom house, maybe if you live in like the middle of the country or something. And like, I feel like he could throw that away. Then you look at it, it's $11 million. It's like, oh fuck.
Well, yeah.
I'd be like, look, the bodies are in there, sure, but I'm going back in. I'm not.
Which means that at 11 at 4-1, that horse would be pulling in a $44 million pull.
Well, it was to place, wasn't it? Though, like
right.
the whole
he puts it down. Yeah.
He puts it to win, yes, but he was supposed to put it to place, which I think only pays off like half the odds, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true. If you pick it to win second, though, like it's not like he gets either.
Well, the odds are to win, but I think the payout diminishes when you're saying to place or show.
It seems like it would be just as hard to pick a horse to come in second, but what do I know? I'm not the horse better that you are, Josh.
I've been to the track multiple times.
Yeah, you bet on the ponies.
I have bet on the ponies. I've been to Santa Anita. I've been to Canterbury. So, Forrest, why don't you tell the listeners who thought nothing of the massive chunk of change that they just swindled out of a guy and couldn't know what's coming for them because they missed your Q's and T's installment last week a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, what do you introduce yourself to those people who are walking around with a handkerchief full of Kleenex
that they pulled out of their crotch.
Well, my grift, as we call it, is
yes.
Movie Night Extravaganza. It's not a very good grift. I think I really lose money on it, just putting it together every week. But yeah, Movie Night Extravaganza. It's on YouTube on Tuesdays at 8 Eastern, 7 Central. Usually, I hate having to think backwards in terms of like what each time zone is. But sometimes we do it on Thursdays or Fridays, but it's usually on Tuesdays. Yeah, I'm a podcast producer, editor, host. Everything all in one.
Some weeks you do more than one episode, which is maniacal to me.
Yeah, not as much anymore. It's not a very good grift now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, this is a long con, Forrest.
We're going to have to get you the big con so you can pull some better grifts, I think.
I'm getting more and more people involved. And it kind of is like this because I'm like, each time, right? Each episode, there's like another, so I'm really working the long con. We're about to be on episode 300.
When we see the installments kind of this movie, right, the chapters, you have been working the setup for quite a long time.
Yeah.
You need to land the hook pretty soon, I think.
I feel like it's not even the setup. I feel like I'm even behind that. Like, by the way, I like how Grifter at this point was just a job.
Well, that's because there weren't any jobs.
Yeah, but the movie's based on like a book that was based on these two, the Gondorf brothers. Yeah. And so like there were people just running around and they're like, oh, what's your job? And it's like, oh, professional grifter.
It's on a business card.
Yeah. Grifter, you see, I'm coming in here to try to grift you out of money. See?
They have a little business card making machine that like Jim Rockford does where he makes up fake business cards about all the different jobs he has. So before we delve too far into the misadventures of Depression-era grifters, where can our listeners find you, Forrest?
Well, Movie Night Extravaganza on YouTube or on Twitter at Always Flacco. We're also on Twitter as Movie Night Extravaganza. We're on Twitch. We're on, all the places you find things, really. Instagram. Yeah. They all have Movie Night Extravaganza accounts.
Your personal handle's pretty much always Flacco everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's Movie Night Extravaganza, sometimes Movie Night Extra.
Yeah, depending on how many letters you're allowed to put in an at.
So last week I said that I saw and loved this when I was a kid. Saw it a couple times, but it had been at least 20 years since I had last seen it. Sean, what was your history with this thing?
Yeah, pretty close to that. I'd say God, 20 years. I mean, this movie never really goes away because it has such bona fides to it. It's an Academy Award winner. I'm certain I've seen the poker scene on the train more recently, but yeah, for the most part, sitting down and watching it end to end, yeah, probably college.
And Forrest, just to refresh the audience, how long do you think it had been since you had last seen this?
Yeah, I had to have been in middle school. Like, I had to have been like 8th grade, probably.
Okay, so getting into the pre-interview, the first thing that popped into your head when we told you that we'd chosen The Sting was that sleepover in middle school at a friend's house where you watched it because his parents had a copy. Was there any point at which you were taken back to that moment in time when you were rewatching this time?
I mean, so the part that I really remember that stuck out to me from that time, like that was really in my head, was just like the ending where everyone gets up and they're laughing after the whole big con is over, and they actually like they hustle Lonigan or whatever out of that room, and he's like on his way, and he's like, my money, like that's when it like, you know, so I really had made it through the whole movie. But I mean, you know, the ragtime takes me back to it too, like it's the entertainer and the, you know, Marvin Hamlish soundtrack.
Redoing all the old Joplin pieces.
Yeah.
I wonder if he got paid, because that, like, the soundtrack sold 2 million copies in the U.S.
Oh, he has to have got paid.
Well, but I don't know how much you can get paid if you're reworking someone else's. I guess it had been.
Maybe there's a public
some
domain
of the stuff had probably been more than 70 years, so maybe it's not.
By this point, I don't think, because it's you know, all of those tunes, as Amazon helpfully pointed out, I guess, that this stuff was like, you know, it was from the 1910s.
Yeah.
So by that point, it had been like a good, you know, 70 years.
Yeah.
The 63 years.
Yeah, yeah. It was from the turn of the century into the, because Joplin died in 1917, I think. So it was like turn of the century to into the teens. But I know they had issues with clearance.
The Entertainer hit #1 on Billboard's adult contemporary chart when this came out, and you know it hadn't placed since 1910 or whatever.
Yeah. Also, like as a person of color in like the turn of the century, he most likely got screwed out of most of his rights.
Oh yeah, I'm sure
for this music.
Yeah.
So like
100%.
It's entirely possible that like there was no money kicked back to the Joplin estate. When they did this thing,
they almost had to go with a contemporary jazz soundtrack because they were having issues clearing all of the songs.
Okay.
Fuck, my guy died of tertiary syphilis, and they put him in a pauper's grave. I feel real bad now. It's like anytime you see like a black artist from anytime you see a black artist from any point in the 20th century, you're like, oh man, someone screwed them out of money for sure.
100%.
But then you see like someone that is like, oh yeah, like 1909, 1910 is when they're putting out like, you know, their top hits, and it's like, I don't want to know what the fuck happened to them.
Yeah, they're in a potter's field somewhere.
Not very entertaining.
No. Or a lot of them were killed.
He was in the Manhattan State Hospital, and they put him in a pauper's grave that remained unmarked for 57 years. So like a few years before this movie came out, and his song once again hit #1 on the top of the charts. They're like, maybe we should put a little marker here for my man Scott Joplin.
Yeah, the least we can do is like get a few $100 together to get him a grave. This is like selling more than like Eagles albums.
2 million copies.
2 million copies, yeah, is insane.
In the U.S.
Yeah.
I wonder if you can find out how much money Marvin Hamlish made on the Sting soundtrack.
More than Scott Joplin ever did, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So, throwing to the first clip, we asked you what you remembered the plot of The Sting being. And you said...
I remember it being like a heist movie with Robert Redford and Paul Newman, and I remember feeling like, oh, this is a very old movie. Those are the things that I remember about it. But I mean, I love Robert Redford as an adult, he's the GOAT, and I mean Paul Newman too. But like Robert Redford really is like an incredible actor, and I've seen things from around this time period that he's been in, obviously, but I haven't gone back to watch The Sting.
So a heist movie, Paul Newman, Robert Redford. Anything else significant that still is rattling around in your mind from memories of this movie?
I mean, just all the ragtime.
Yeah.
Sure. So were you surprised at how little of the actual plot of the film you remembered, or is this generally somewhat common for you with a film you hadn't seen in this long? Or was it something specific even to The Sting?
As I was saying, like right before we recorded, yeah, I realized that like seeing this at 13, the plot of this movie is just so fucking convoluted, which I like I could appreciate now. But like, I'm like, of course, this didn't stick out in my head like as a kid. Because I remember I was watching it, I was trying to follow along and I was having the hardest time following along. And I was trying to remember, like, why was that the case? And rewatching it now, I'm like, oh yeah, because the whole thing is like a complex like mess, not a mess in a bad way. Like it's a really good movie, but every single time he fucks up, which is a lot. Like Robert Redford as Johnny Hooker, which is a great name. I love that name for a 1930s grifter. But every time he fucks up and they realize and he like lies about it, they have to go and they have to add another like 30 people to the big con. So like there's that moment where he's talking to Henry or whatever, and Henry realizes like, there's people trying to kill you, and you didn't tell us that there are multiple people from the guy that we're trying to take down for this amount of money. And they've sent people after you multiple times. They've seen your face, and there's a cop that's trying to kill you, like Snyder, who's the guy that I always think of with the Muppet movie who wants to take Kermit's legs. But so like he's out to get you too. So now we have to set up an FBI plot, which then adds to like the complex web. And then in the end, they're like, oh, we can use the FBI thing to have you pretend to turn on Henry, and then Henry and you shoot each other, and then there's bodies, and that's why we have to hustle them out. So it like plays into itself perfectly. But I remember looking back at it as like a teenager and being like, what the fuck did I like even like probably like going to sleep for a second and getting back up because I was like at a sleepover, and then being like, what the fuck did I miss? Why are there FBI guys in this now?
Yeah, this is not a movie where you can kind of really walk to the kitchen to get yourself a beer.
Yeah.
You have to be paying attention and taking notes, which I did.
Yeah, I have a lot of notes. So, having seen more Redford films as an adult, does it strike you that this is his only Oscar-nominated acting role? Does it strike you as odd?
Yeah, that's crazy. Because he's been he was in so much formative stuff, like, you know, even like All the President's Men, like, which is something that he put together as like a project. Like he found out about Nixon, and I remember the whole story because I've watched it. He was doing I think it was The Candidate. He was doing The Candidate, which is a movie I love.
It's great.
But he found out while he was on a press tour for The Candidate that everything was happening with Nixon and Watergate. And he was like literally talking to somebody on a train, and somebody on the train was like, did you hear the news about, you know, Nixon? And Nixon's going down. And obviously Robert Redford is a lifelong liberal. They made The Candidate to literally troll George McGovern pretty much, like, you know, having given up, I'm pretty sure that's who it was, having given up all of like a whole bunch of his like, you know, core beliefs or whatever. He was like pissed for the rest of his life about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of glaring. I mean, he did pull a Best Director Oscar
for Ordinary People,
Ordinary People.
And he was nominated a couple more times, I think. Wasn't he nominated for Quiz Show?
As a director?
Yeah, as director.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. But yeah, it is weird that he didn't get anything for Natural, for Out of Africa, for big movies. Definitely for All the President's Men.
3 Days of the Condor would have been...
That feels like such a formative version of the Watergate story for so many like boomers from this era, right? Like having seen Watergate kind of portrayed, or the story of kind of how Nixon got brought down by Woodward and Bernstein, like that story feels so formative for, like, you'd think that they would have honored that with a big fucking Oscar.
Yeah.
You know, there's probably a thesis on this, but you know, the 70s, when we look back at cinema in the 70s, it has this dark edge to it that, like, there's a grit to movies of the 70s, and it's been lauded for having that type of grit. And we look at all these characters and actors that kind of came out of that and took, like, say, Academy Award hardware home. And Redford doesn't have that, right? Redford doesn't have that edge that, like, a Pacino and a De Niro and, you know, like a Christopherson. I mean, yeah, Nicholson. He didn't have that, and I wonder if it worked against him in such a way where it was just like, you have been genetically blessed so well that we can't see you as anything other than a movie star and not kind of a lived-in, drug-addicted, you know, homosexual hustler type of role. I don't know. I mean, again, somebody smarter than me has probably written exhaustively about that, but it's well,
possible. There's the whole thing with didn't he want to be in The Graduate?
Yeah.
And Nichols basically asked, something about like, have you ever struck out with a woman or something? And he's like, what's that?
What do you mean?
Yeah. People were sharing like that story and like a few other of his like Robert Redford has never gotten rejected by any woman stories on like the day he died, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, the other like thing, a bunch of jokes about Indecent Proposal, where it's like, how much would I have to pay him to fuck him?
Yeah. But like, this is just off the top of my head. I also wonder the fact that, in 78, he co-founds Sundance. Like, and I
the
wonder
Institute first and then the festival.
Yeah. And I have to wonder if the way that he kind of instituted himself within the filmmaking industry, right? Like this, as the filmmaking industry kind of expanded. So it's not just, it's not just the Academy as like the kingmaker, because the Academy is kind of founded to like avoid a union, but to like as the institutional,
well, and that's all largely a reaction to how hard it was for him to make All the President's Men.
Yeah, but I have to wonder, like, instituting himself as like as an institutional mechanism in filmmaking, right? Would it almost have felt if he had gotten from there, like if they had given him like Oscars, right? Like if he had gotten consistently Oscar nominated, I wonder if they would have felt like it was a fix. Or like felt like somebody behind the scenes, Robert Redford was organizing this kind of thing, and I wonder if that makes it so that people are less likely in the actual Academy to like nominate him for anything. I don't know. It's just
sure, maybe, yeah. Especially the more like traditional institutional people.
Yeah,
because obviously like the Sundance Institute is so much about like building up independent cinema, and I mean to me, I honestly don't know if there's a more important fucking person in Hollywood history than Redford. Like for what he does for fucking cinema, what he uses his fucking massive celebrity that this film helps build. He uses his massive celebrity to get fucking independent films made, to like foster independent filmmakers like careers. Like that's fucking crazy.
Already having done environmental activism, already having used his credibility kind of to help multiple like very liberal presidential candidates, kind of throwing his weight around that way, including I guess he didn't really help George McGovern out that much, because the candidate stuck with him for the rest of his time in politics. But like, it's like he feels like he kind of takes this institutional heft that he builds up throughout throughout just being very pretty and in movies and doing a good job, obviously, but like just kind of being like this giant heartthrob, and he throws around his weight quite a bit.
There's something that
from there,
like we've heard a lot more probably in recent history about how you have to campaign to win, about how you have to do press tours and how you have to like do these shows, and how basically winning an Academy Award comes with this enormous pressure to like play the game and play ball and like do the steps. There's probably like, PR people that are advising on what you need to do in order. And Redford just has an air of not giving a fuck about any of that.
None whatsoever. Yeah.
And so I don't think he ever really missed it. I think having the achievement of winning Best Picture and Best Director by the time he's late 40s or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe almost 50. What else do you need to do? You don't need to ingratiate yourself in any other way to pull a Best Actor award for The Natural.
44.
Jesus. Here are some ads. We'll be right back.
I also think back then, like, liberalism kind of had its own, like, was kind of at its it was beginning to decline by the 80s, but like it kind of had its own peak where there was like different achievements, I feel like, than exists today, where it's like, has a presidential candidate asked you to come like campaign for them and, be like, have you been like a spokesman for that? Or like these like causes that kind of came with like the glamour of that kind of world, right? Like, I feel like maybe there were milestones back then that you don't quite have now, where everything is kind of stage managed to a level that it isn't even at this point, right? Like everything is stage managed. Back then, it was a little bit more free, and you could be like Warren Beatty, like literally going out front and being like the spokesman for like presidential candidates and stuff. And I wonder if there was a little bit more of a feeling of like liberal power in that moment, where it's like, yeah, who needs the fucking Oscars?
Right.
I mean, he had a Presidential Medal of Freedom, like back when it meant something.
Yeah.
What are you saying, Sean?
Nothing.
Now they just give them to anybody, you know.
Now that Scott Baio has one, I think that it's lost a little bit of its luster. I think Scott Baio has two, to be honest.
He might. So, Forrest, you obviously now host a movie podcast that dives into at least some older fare. Did this still strike you as a very old movie?
No, not really. I mean, really, it cultivates like an aesthetic of like a classic kind of aesthetic of that time period, where it's like you realize like neither movies at that time or like mass culture at that time would have been able to get away with any of the, like, he just straight up goes up to the woman's room and he's like, come on, it's me. It's like, I'm just like you, you know, it's 2 a.m. I don't know nobody. Let me come in. And like, you know, he bangs the woman that's going to end up trying to kill him. He doesn't know. He just thinks it's like the diner waitress. Yeah. Like obviously that kind of, you know, they would have to hint a lot more around that with like the Hays Code and stuff at this time. And like, you know, the dialogue and stuff, the dialogue is very written to be of this time, I think.
Yeah.
But like in a way that you're still like, oh yeah, this is the 70s.
Yeah. They want the PG rating, but it's still like got an edge to it that wouldn't have been present, you know, 7 years earlier?
I mean, you see his friend's body just shot down, and like you see, you know, I mean, the scene where obviously you see the woman get got right in the head. Like, the PG rating here feels a little bit. You
have the burlesque too, like the obviously they're pasties and whatever, but you still have the burlesque scene. Like, obviously they're not cursing left and right, but it is pushing buttons.
Did you catch the time where they censored an F-bomb?
No, I didn't.
So when they first meet each other and he's giving Newman the cold shower, he's sitting on the toilet talking to him.
Okay.
He has a line where Luther told me, you know, you were one of the best. He didn't tell me how much of a screw up you were.
Oh, he says fuck up.
Redford's lips in that scene. He does not say screw up. So I think that, this is probably, you know, allowing some burlesque, allowing some violence. But by God, you could not say an F word to get that PG rating.
Well, they reshot the whole first week.
Because
George Roy Hill didn't like what he shot in the first week. But I wonder if some of the first week, maybe the tone was different, and that's a shot from the first week.
It's possible, yeah. I mean, the ADR, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah.
But it's further. It's a 2-shot, so it's not close up on Redford as he says it. But yeah, I watched it a couple times.
I mean, the first 30 minutes I think are a lot grittier.
Yeah, before Newman's in it.
Yeah,
because I think Newman comes in at minute 26.
Yeah, I think it's something like that. But they immerse you in this world. It's like a very gritty world. They're taking the guy down, and I mean, I love that beginning scene where they like it's his friend Luther, and you think it's like, oh, this black guy really needs help, and it's like, you know, you keep your mind clear or whatever, and he runs up, and then, you know, he's like, oh, I have this money, and I need to deposit this money, and like the guy that literally works for the guy that they end up taking down, like the gangster's like henchman or whatever, falls for the fucking oldest trick in the book, where you switch out the money, and so you place it here. There's a whole elaborate setup for that, and that whole part feels so much grittier than the next part, which kind of is an almost like cartoonish level of of con.
Yeah. Do you have any specific memories of your mom and her affinity for Redford?
I mean, I just know every time I bring it up, she's like, "Oh, I love Redford." Like, she has like that little, you know. I mean, mom,
the same thing that all of our moms do, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Like, they're never going to be like, oh, don't put on that Robert Redford movie.
Yeah, but I also remember as a kid, I used to love the Newman's Own cookies, and I would have them all the time. And like Paul Newman's face was just right in the cookie, like, you know, on the box or whatever. And I felt like they were healthier than Oreos, which really, I mean, kind of, but like not really. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it was probably a marginal improvement. I
think it has to be, right?
Yeah, I think calorically you're probably looking at something about the same, but like there's probably not chemicals that keeps your body
slightly
alive for
more
hundreds of
nutritive
years.
Value.
Well, yeah, they put so many like preservatives and disgusting chemicals into Oreos that, like, yeah, I mean, it has to be. But I'm saying, like, just in terms of like what it does to your body, you know, like, like if you eat a whole sleeve of Newman's Own cookies, I don't think you're looking at any less weight gain than if you're eating a sleeve of Oreos.
Sure, but you're probably less likely to get cancer from the Newman's Own.
Yeah. But that's down the line. Who keeps track of all those things?
Yeah, we're getting cancer from how many things in our food supply?
Both these guys lived pretty long. I imagine that Redford even got hooked up with his buddy's products whenever he wanted.
Yeah.
I bet Redford had a lot of Newman's Own.
Yeah. He has them fly it into Colorado or whatever. Like, he's like, look, Sundance is on, and I need a whole bunch of Newman's Own.
Just airdrop it on this mountain.
Well, I bet they just stock his whole like Westport house.
Yeah.
With Newman's own stuff. Because they were neighbors in Westport, right?
I didn't know that, but
I know they at least were for a while because there's a whole prank war between the two of them.
This is the last time that we see them together, right?
Yes, they're just the two movies.
That's insane, right? Like it feels like this should have been a longer collaboration. Obviously, very, very different movies here.
Same director, though.
Same director. You know, the knock on this one that I don't have with Butch Cassidy is that we lose so much of their interactions in this because they have these separate plot lines. They have to do such separate shit that we don't have that great rapport that almost felt second nature to these two actors.
And they didn't know each other before Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Yeah, that's insane. These two guys seem like a Walter Matthau, Jack Lemmon type of like institution that just should have been making movies together every 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's crazy.
What I read, and it could be apocryphal, but what I read was that there were a few times where people would come to them with projects and they just didn't feel like the project was, worthy of like teaming back up to, denigrate the two things that they did do that were legendary fucking films.
Mm-hmm.
This was George Roy Hill's second $100 million box office film. He's the first director ever to do that.
Yeah.
And it was with this and fucking Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Like, they were boffo box office or whatever. I think if they didn't like live next door to each other or whatever, if they weren't neighbors in Westport, Connecticut, that it probably would have been different, but they were. And so I think that they could hang out whenever they wanted, so it didn't really fucking matter to them. Especially to get the two of them in a movie was going to be fucking pricey.
Yeah. Apparently there was a third movie, A Walk in the Woods, that they were trying to do together where they were like aging guys on like the Appalachian Trail or whatever. And
I just watched that.
And it didn't end up happening because by that point, like Newman was on his way out. Like I think they were trying to get it together 3 years before he passed away.
Based on the Bill Bryson book, Nick Nolte ends up being the old friend from Iowa.
That's not as
George Roy Hill, he's got some credits, but like nothing came close to his work with these two guys, right? Like he did World According to Garp, he did Slapshot, but
he did Cool Hand Luke also. Or no, was that Stuart Rosenberg?
That wasn't Hill.
Okay, sorry.
But like it's a chasm-like drop. Like when you look at these two movies compared to the rest of his work.
Right.
I mean, this was just some type of dark magic combination with these two to do that. And you're right. Like it seems like Hollywood probably tried everything they could to get these two back because of how surefire success it was proving. You almost have to give them a nod of respect that they didn't make a concession on what they thought was good material, because Lord knows the amount of money that was probably tossed at both of them to team back up.
Well, because they made $500,000 a piece here.
Which, as we know...
That was the most in Hollywood.
Which, as we know, was $11 million.
Well, no, that's $36.
That was the 1930s. Yeah. Okay, it's probably pretty close. I did, real quick, on the math, how many albums the soundtracks sold versus the population of the country.
Uh-huh.
It works out to 1 out of every 100 people had this.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So,
by the way, 500,000 in 1973 is 3.6 million today.
And that is just to act in it. That is not back end because I don't know if you guys know this, but this movie made some money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys look up what its box office was?
I know that so I think that I'm right that this took the top spot for box office for a couple years until Star Wars or Jaws.
Yeah, Jaws was the one that changed everything.
The Exorcist made more than this.
Oh, it did. Okay.
Yeah,
but I know that adjusted for inflation, this is still extremely high.
So adjusted for inflation, they just look at sheer ticket sales. And then extrapolate what it would be, extrapolate box office based on that. But pure ticket sales, just tickets sold. This is the 20th biggest movie of all time.
Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me.
I mean, people couldn't see it any other way.
Yeah.
There was no VHS.
And it played for like a fucking calendar year.
Yeah, you couldn't get a reel of this. You just had to keep going back to the theater.
People in the UK were flying to fucking Ireland to see this. They were flying. It was still playing in Dublin, and it wasn't still playing in the UK. And they were flying to Dublin to see The Sting.
I mean, if you're looking at Jerry England and you're looking at the people there and like the teeth and everything, you're like, sure. All right, I'm gonna fly to Ireland. I'm gonna go see The Sting one more time. Right. I can't live like this anymore.
Let me look at these two hunks of meat.
Yeah.
There's a shot in this, I mean, like, obviously they're very handsome kind of throughout, but there's a shot of this when they're both in their tuxedos and they kind of look at each other, and it's about 5 to 6 seconds long between those two shots, and you just have to, like, exhale.
I turned gay then.
You could, like, you hold your breath in such a way because the charisma just rivets you.
Yeah.
It is insane. Not a lot of camera effects. It's just a simple mid shot on both of them. And in that span with those two guys over 5 seconds, yeah, it is startling how magnetic both of them are.
And obviously we've been talking a lot about Redford, but like Newman was arguably the bigger heartthrob at this point.
Yeah.
Like Shaw was talking about like when they were shooting on location that everyone was going after Newman, not Redford, which, I mean, Newman's a very attractive man.
Yeah, to be fair, he'd had
more success at this point.
A longer run. It's funny because Redford, you don't see him as like a 20-year-old, right? Like he doesn't really make his...
He's still kind of in TV and working on stage at 20.
Yeah, you don't really see him kind of make his breakthrough until the early 70s.
Yeah. Or 68 with Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
But Newman, at this point, you've been seeing for 20 years.
Right.
Yeah,
young Philadelphian, somebody up there likes me, all that.
Cat on a hot tin roof, for Christ's sake. I mean,
which is fucking amazing.
Yeah, like he's been...
Luke is early 60s, like, yeah, he's the established sex symbol.
It does make sense of what Shaw said, because this guy has just been, back when being a movie star meant something, as they say.
Yeah.
Because there was only like 7 of them.
Right. And these two are like at the summit, like they're.
Yeah. I mean, Redford still has a ways to go. And Newman, arguably, too.
Right.
They both did a lot of great work and stayed in the public eye for a long time. But yeah, it is something special to see them both in the same scene in those tuxedos. I mean, tuxedo obviously is like the most formal and dashing a man can look, right? Typically.
Yeah.
But Newman looks great in a fucking A shirt, A-shirt, suspenders, dunking his head in the fucking sink with the ice.
I mean, he looked...
His trick from Harper, he reuses that here.
He looked great snoring against the wall because he fell out of bed.
Yes.
Which is such a great way to introduce Paul Newman in your movie, right?
Yeah.
Like just the shittiest, most pathetic way to introduce a leading character.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, did you guys see who was originally supposed to be that?
Who was supposed to be Gondorf? No.
It was supposed to be Peter Boyle.
Oh, I think
in the original script, Peter Boyle was a much more like slovenly kind of failure.
Uh-huh.
And when George Roy Hill was able to get Paul Newman to join on, because George Roy Hill was the first one on, and Redford was hesitant in the first place to do it because it was, I think, and I'm like piecing together things from different places here, but I think originally David S. Ward was going to direct, and Redford wasn't really feeling that. Mm-hmm. Didn't want to take the risk on David S. Ward directing because he had written basically, he had one other movie that came out the year before that was a bit of a mess because they had a first-time director on that. And that was the same like producer team, the two Phillipses and Tony Bill. And so Redford, he liked the script, but he was leery about coming on if it was Ward. So it looked like George Roy Hill brought both of them in. But for a while, it was Peter Boyle, and they had to rewrite the part for Newman because it's like, well, if you've got Paul Newman,
yeah,
you got to fucking lean into those strengths, right?
Well, they have So I was looking at the kind of the timeline, right? So in 65, Redford is in Inside Daisy Clover, and that's when he wins like his first Golden Globe for like best new star, pretty much. Like,
was that with was it Goldie Hawn in that? Am I remembering that correctly, or am I thinking of two different
Natalie
movies?
Wood.
Okay, never mind.
Him and Natalie Wood. But so he's like, he's an unknown quantity. Mm-hmm. He's an unknown quantity for the next 4 years, all the way until 1969, which is when he's Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Yeah. So he's still coming into all this stuff. And obviously he was in a bunch of things. Like, I mean, there's like the classic Twilight Zone episode, and like, he was in Alfred Hitchcock Presents, which seems almost like they should be the same show
100%
at some point, because they like literally have the same anthology series thing that they do.
Right. And they were both aired back to back on Nick at Night, like every fucking night for 20 years.
And then you even see like Perry Mason is in his credits from like this time period. Yeah. So then by this point he's kind of just like, what they would call like a bankable star coming into this. And like obviously Paul Newman has been a bankable star for quite a while at this point. So it makes sense that I was noticing like both these guys and Robert Shaw and even our good friend that's trying to steal Kermit's legs, they all have these same kind of intense blue eyes that they literally take the camera, they kind of wash out the like the saturation kind of thing in the actual film, so that these blue eyes, like all of their blue eyes pop throughout this movie. Like it feels like every single character in this has like the same, like not the same obviously, but like they all have like dazzling kind of
even
blue
the
eyes.
broken nose thug of Robert Shaw has these blue eyes. Yeah. Must have been a contractual thing.
They're like, all right, everybody in here has to have blue eyes. But it just kind of like they really pop with the way the filmmaking is. And obviously they have to with Paul Newman. Like there's no way they can use Paul Newman and not have his like, half the looks are his baby blues that he's, showing off to the camera there. But like it kind of stuck out to me because I don't know like how many movies really like think of like everybody kind of has the same eye color and like the same style they kind of put the filmmaking through, I guess, kind of. Yeah. Or at least how many that I've noticed. I mean.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about how when you were watching this as a kid, you'd sort of like watched this trying to suss out like what your parents' generation sex symbols were. So did you have any revelations about the idols of your parents' generation while watching this now?
I mean, they're just so hot, like, both of them.
Okay.
Like, I it's like, I mean, I feel like I've had a lot of revelations about that kind of thing, like just watching a lot of Robert Redford movies since then, right? Like, you realize, like, some of it's the political influence or the political, the political sensibility, I guess, that he represents, I think plays a lot into it. And like his outside curricular work, I guess, but it's also just his looks are just, like you can't even like even as like an old man, he still had his like
Old Man in the Gun. He like, still looks fucking incredible. Great.
Yeah.
All Is Lost. He's like 78 in that, and he still looks fucking fantastic. And he let himself age like surely mostly naturally. Like I don't think any of these guys like fully naturally aged, but he let himself age. He wasn't
a guy that you would see.
He didn't Kenny Rogers himself.
No, he wasn't a guy that you saw later on and you're like, oh man, he had so much work done.
Right.
Whether or not it was just a good dye job, he kind of kept some flax into his hair. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like either a wig or it's got to be a wig, right?
I don't know, man. If it is, it's a really good one.
Well, he has the thing where it's like you can see some gray and some.
Yeah, but it's always
like,
just the gray right
hair.
here at the like temple. You know? I don't know about you guys, but I know I've been going down a bit of a rabbit hole of just watching Redford. And Sean, I assume you have because I've been playing Cinequote for the last, 8 days?
Yeah, Cinequote did 8 days of Redford. And honestly, Josh, I could have gone like another week.
Oh, absolutely. I was still waiting for ones. Yeah, I was waiting for movies. I was like, Charlotte's Web was underhanded, but...
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, if you remember... if you know kind of how we do it, we do some kid movies on Saturday. We try to do.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I'm been playing long enough. But I wanted at that point too. It's like I know that people are doing this, so I have to get kind of progressively harder, right? Yeah. Because people just are bringing up his filmography, and I still kind of want to make it a little challenging. So in Charlotte's Web, he's the voice of the horse. He does not have a big role, but it's still a Redford movie, so we used it. But yeah, I've been kind of inundated with Redford for the last couple weeks. When you guys mentioned Candidate, my spidey sense went off too because it's been so long.
I haven't
since I saw the Candidate.
I want to rewatch that and Brubaker coming up here.
Yeah, I definitely want to see those two. I want to go back and watch his comedies that he did kind of in the late 60s.
I want to see The Electric
stuff.
Horseman too, which I've never seen.
Yeah.
And the clips I've seen of it look fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Have you been watching Redford stuff, Forrest?
Like I've been watching less movies the last couple weeks because I just feel like they're working on the house a little bit, so it's like I have less time that I'm just sitting in front of my computer. But I'm happy that I got to see this thing again, because it's like I've been meaning to go watch more Redford movies even before he passed away. Yeah. And I was thinking about The Candidate, and I was rewatching his big speech in The Candidate recently, like literally like a week before he found out he passed away, because I was thinking about like, I don't know what a shame it is, like in New York City, that they're kind of bleeding like the radicalism or like the, you know, like the real values out of the whole Zoran like Mamdani campaign. And like when he was like, oh, I'm going to apologize to NYPD, I was thinking about like that part of The Candidate where it gets so depressing that like you realize it's kind of just been bleached out of his whole campaign.
Right. All the principles they claim to have held go away once they can, you know, maybe get elected.
I can't wait for the absolute dumpster fire that this next month or so is going to be in New York.
Yeah.
It's going to be...
Especially after Adams dropped out yesterday.
Yeah. Dude, I want to know what they promised him. Like, I feel like we're going to find out he really is ambassador to Turkey.
Oh, 100%.
It's going to be insane.
He's just going to... or he is just, like, now officially Turkish.
Yeah. They're like...
That's a great exit strategy.
Yeah. Now I just live in Istanbul. Like, whatever.
I'm lamenting how terrible SNL is going to treat Mamdani coming up here.
Yeah.
It's going to be some like sinister right-wing spin just to amplify everything extremist that they can find in him. It's going to be so lazily done.
Yeah.
It will only kind of hurt the campaign, but I don't know. They have a long history of doing
just fired the one... They fired the one Lebanese guy that was working for them, like, because he said free Palestine in an episode, and Saturday Night Live was like, well, that's the first guy to go.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm of the mind that SNL can fuck itself, but and can fuck itself for 50 years, basically, maybe 45. They
hired this guy that was like a doorman at Joe Rogan's comedy club as like one of their new cast members, and that's like their one cast member of color that they like invited onto their roster for the season. It's like cool. This guy is like what
they used to hire people like in their mid-30s, which was so great because you had actors who had so much experience, and now they hire people who have like a good Q score who are like 24.
Right.
But like the era in which I was kind of brought up with SNL, Kevin Nealon and Dana Carvey and Phil Hartman were not like impressionable 26-year-olds who had like a big following on Instagram.
Right.
And it kind of seems like that's where they're going for a lot of these hirings.
Yeah. Well, they've had like a lot of people talk about where they're doing hiring by like Instagram account and hiring by like TikTok account, and like
great.
You have to show your social media presence or whatever to get hired by anybody.
Not doing some fucking like Huffle audition at the fucking Comedy Store or wherever with like 3 people in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, as an actor in New York, I've heard that for a long time as well. So much of it is about the game, which is why like I've receded so much away from that world in a lot of ways, because it's just like it's so intolerable for me to kind of swallow my pride enough to like play that game.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, longer story. We'll be right back with more Unkind Rewind.
But I mean, like looking at like, you know, Robert Redford, like what we were just talking about with his kind of refusal to campaign, or his refusal to like kowtow and kiss the feet of, you know, authority, I guess, in order to get awards, and kind of how like his outside curricular activities were his rewards. Like it feels like kind of the same thing. It feels like as time has gone on, right? Like these different qualifiers have gotten just only higher and higher and higher.
Right.
Like, and maybe like that is part of the appeal of somebody like Robert Redford. It's like
100%
refusal to kind of kneel. Yeah.
And you definitely got the sense, because I mean, I think like, I'm assuming you two did the same thing where you like watched a lot of Robert Redford interviews and shit over the last few weeks, and, you know, people sharing stuff on social media because Redford was trending for a few days. But it really seemed like the Institute was like the thing that kept him going. And that was was like the fucking thing he really cared about. So like it seems very clear to me that if you can make your own Hollywood in the fucking mountains in Utah, you know, if you can help people make movies there, that you're clearly not concerned at all about like the rat race, you know?
Well, you look at even like a Kevin Smith or like really any of those, like, you know, that style of indie filmmaking, right? Like that doesn't exist without Sundance existing.
No, 100%.
Or like
Linklater,
Spike Lee was found out of,
Jarmusch, maybe a little less Jarmusch, but still the indie cinema of the 80s pops up in large part because of the Sundance Institute. Not entirely, but like it's a big player.
And out of kind of the idea of Sundance comes like these buyers festivals where they literally have everybody's movie up for market, and you kind of have to go around, and it's after Sundance, really. Like, I mean, Sundance happens, obviously they premiere the movies, and then you kind of have these buyer festivals where it's producers going around, which is kind of where, I mean, you know, like fuck the Weinsteins, but that's kind of where Miramax comes out of, is like that world where they were the most, and I think New Line too, like they're the most willing to kind of go around and buy these projects, which is crazy because in some ways, like, someone's already made the whole movie, you know, like they're like, well, you've made the whole movie now, like we're gonna purchase and distribute the thing that you've already created. But I mean, still, like that's like a revolutionary way of filmmaking in its own.
And I mean, it doesn't exist without him, basically. So throw into the next clip. We asked you what brought you to watch The Sting in a subsequent viewing, and you said,
yeah, I mean, I think it was, a lot of it was just like my friend had parents around the same age, and it was just like, oh, this is like a movie our parents liked. I don't think that there was, I mean, like, in like, obviously, like by then, every like hippie kid, like kind of hippie kid, or like hippie parents were eating like Newman's Own, and I always felt like that was funny. Like it was like Paul Newman's version of Oreos, so it was like, that's the Oreos guy.
I have some of his lemonade in my refrigerator right now.
I mean, this, like the Oreos are so fucking good, like. I'm just saying, like, it's funny that he had a second wind.
That's still going strong.
Yeah, it's good. We've talked about these Oreos and Tuesday in the intro, and then we brought it back around.
Yeah, we'll take you on as a sponsor, Newman's Own.
Yeah, anytime. We'll give you a great deal.
Yeah, great deal. So as a youth, were you generally interested in things your parents liked, or was this something you ended up rebelling against?
I mean, I think I've always had like a nostalgia for it. Like, I don't know, like a lot of the times that I most remember, like really enjoying movies, like even something like Caddyshack and like, you know, movies like that, right? Where it's like the early SNL cast members that were really, really funny. Like I remember like watching them with my dad and like that. So yeah, I think that, you know, there's a lot of movies that I've watched since where I'm like, oh, this is like this generation's sensibility. But I've always kind of had a soft spot for like 70s and 80s movies.
So past an inconvenient truth, like what were your parents' relationships to movies like?
One of the big things that we used to do like every weekend when I was like, you know, young enough that I couldn't like, that I didn't really have that much of my own social life, is we would go to the video store, because there were like 2 video stores in town, and we would just pick stuff out to watch every week pretty much.
Were these indie stores, or? We
had an indie one, and then we also had Blockbuster, but we usually went to the indie one. And then if they didn't have like, you know, what we wanted, obviously Blockbuster, but yeah, I remember going to the indie one way more than I remember going to Blockbuster. It was like the New Paltz Video Exchange.
So your parents were like movie buffs?
Well, my dad was, like, he was always, you know, bringing me to the, like, and we would go to the movies a lot.
And your mom was a Robert Redford buff.
I mean, you know, like my mom watched a lot of movies too, but a lot of the more vivid memories are like going with my dad, because he was always just, he really liked just going and renting stuff there.
So he was kind of driving that train.
Yeah. Now sometimes he texts me and asks me for movie recommendations.
Well, as he should.
Yeah, you have a fucking movie podcast. Of course he should. Did you recommend Weapons to him?
I haven't talked about it since I've seen Weapons, but yeah, I should. Weapons is so fucking good. I don't know if you'd like that,
like
though.
Weapons, or do you kind of have to?
I don't know.
Do you kind of have to like change your recommendations a little bit to who you're speaking to?
I don't know. He's not like he lives with his girlfriend now, and they're not. I don't think she's like a big horror movie person. Like I think she has to leave the room or whatever. When it's like, so that movie's kind of freaky for that.
Yeah, I can't recommend Weapons to my mom.
Yeah, I was explaining the plot to my mom after I saw it, and she was like, "Yeah, I don't think I'd like that." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't do it."
So what kind of movies are your mom and dad separately into? Like, do they have different things that they dig?
Yeah, I mean, I remember really vividly, like, my dad was the one that, like, first got me to watch, like, all the Lord of the Rings movies, which,
Okay.
you know, like, because he was, like, a huge Lord of the Rings fan, and, like, you know, Star Wars, and, like, but then he also really likes, like, those comedies. Like, he likes Caddyshack. I had to watch that a whole bunch of times because every time, whenever, like, the titties came out, he would, like, kick me out of the room and be like, get out of here, like. Or the other
he
one
was a gatekeeper for stuff like that. Like, it was a you have to leave the room or close your eyes or whatever.
Animal House is another one. Stripes.
Okay.
Stripes was like when I remember I had to watch Stripes like 10 times because it was like every single time that like the mud wrestling scene or whatever. He was like, all right, that's enough. Get out of here.
So he was a Bill Murray guy?
Yeah, he likes Bill Murray. And he got got to tour Jim Jarmusch's house because he was an architect in the city. So he like got to go see Jim Jarmusch's house and everything. Yeah. And I remember both my parents really got into Jim Jarmusch after that. And like they were watching Broken Flowers and Coffee and Cigarettes. And like,
did you have to leave the room for the full frontal nudity in Broken Flowers?
I think I did see Broken Flowers when they finally got it on like DVD or whatever. But I remember like I got left at home when they first went when they saw it. And I was like, I wanted to go see that. And they're like, not for you. I recently found it, but I used to have like a Dead Man poster.
Nice. With
like the Johnny Depp pointing the fucking gun at the actual poster as if it was you. And I remember like I used to have it in my apartment, and I like when I would like smoke or like I would get a little bit like I don't know, like I would trip in my apartment or whatever. Like it looked like Johnny Depp's eyes were following me around, and it would freak me out.
Nice. Jarmusch is seriously like one of my 2 or 3 favorite directors. So we asked you in the final clip what your expectations were for your return to the Sting.
Like, I'm sure I'll appreciate it now way more than I did at that point.
I mean, between then and now, right, you've seen thousands of movies. Perhaps your tastes have changed, or perhaps there are things that you can see now that you didn't see originally as a kid. I mean, are you expecting it to be as good as you remembered?
I mean, it's a very vague memory. So I think like everything I've ever seen Robert Redford and I liked.
Yeah.
So I you know, it's hard to be like it's hard to imagine that I'll hate it. You know what I was thinking about? I was thinking about Call Saul and obviously Breaking Bad too. But I was thinking about so much of the filmmaking or, you know, the TV writing, I guess, in something like Better Call Saul is clearly inspired by The Sting. Mm-hmm. Like the way that they break the cons and everything down that, you know, Jimmy was doing down into these like partial scenes where one con is actually building towards another con is actually building towards another one. And then they all come together in this big thing. I feel like Vince Gilligan, when he was writing Breaking Bad, was like really inspired by this movie in particular.
I mean, this definitely... Like, it's not like this is the first sort of, like, con grifter, you know, there's all the French ones from, like, Bob LaFlambeau or, you know, all the Melville stuff and all the, Jules Dassin. So that stuff all happened, but, like, this is a clear touchstone for so much that followed.
Yeah.
And the overly involved plot where you have, you know, grifts on grifts on grifts. Like, it feels like this is the beginning of that.
And the theatricality about it.
100%.
The theatricality of, like, having these things where it almost feels like theater, and you have these characters and they're playing characters and they've kind of built these elaborate identities around what they've kind of built in this way, right? Like, that feels like it comes directly out of this.
You also see that with the kind of chapter markers that very much feel theatrical. Like, these are acts, right? And we're separating this movie into something theatrical. I think one of the best little touches is at the end when they're all kind of getting up and dusting off. It's the denouement, and Redford and Newman are kind of having their heart to heart. You know, Redford's refusing his money, right?
Yeah.
He says he's going to piss it away. But you see how quickly, like, that team is turning that place and striking the set. Right, which is a very theatrical thing. You get to the end of the show, like, another day is going to cost you this amount of money, right? You need to strike. You need to start taking things down. And as somebody who's done a lot of theater, like, that process usually starts the next day. Everybody kind of comes in a little hungover because they've partied maybe on closing night.
But in theater, you usually haven't stolen $11 million worth of money from a mobster.
And the budget on that is, hi, you have 100 people, all actors who are working for you there, right?
Right.
Having that little scene with Twist where he's kind of like, in a way, auditioning people. They're coming in, they're saying their resume, they're talking about what jobs they've worked on. The guy does, I do a British accent, play a fine English gentleman.
Yeah. And then I remember dying laughing when he comes and sits down. And I'm like, that's the guy who could do the British accent. And he's like, oh, that's a pretty good horse or whatever. And it's like not a good British accent. And I just died laughing. It's like, because you see him also put on his
fake Van Dyke.
Because they're all getting ready. And and you see him put on like the mutton chops and everything. And like he's like feeling them out to make sure that he got them on right. And he's like, oh shit, that guy's gonna do his world
that's
famous
the thing
British
too.
accent.
It may be a little bit of a mistake on their part for hiring the whatever he was, the Cincinnati kid or something, the guy with the mustache who Durning came in and smashed him, right? The Erie kid Erie or whatever his name was.
It's Joe Erie, right?
Joe Erie. Okay, I thought he went by.
I'm looking it up now just to check,
but that seems to me.
I think he said he was Joe Erie.
He's known as the Erie kid on Wikipedia at least, but
because he tells Twist that he was a friend of Luther's and he wants to do this job, but it's a huge risk, right? Taking him on, and I don't know if in reality, if they were really doing this, if they would have brought him on, because Durning, the cop, knows this guy and knows that he is a hustler. And so when Durning comes into that club in that last scene, he has to think that this is a illegitimate business. He can't think that anybody there is a hustler. And I think it would be an incredible risk.
Well, but an OTB would still have lots of fucking degenerates. And I don't think that in and of itself is enough. That Erie kid being there is by itself enough to be like, oh, this is all a con.
Yeah.
To Durning, at least.
But he also knows that, Robert Redford's pretending to be a guy other than the guy he is, like in that scene. So they've told, there's two different stories where he's a random guy because his whole thing with Quint, or, Quint from Jaws, Robert Shaw. But this whole thing with Robert Shaw, right, is that Robert Shaw is already chasing him down, and he knows that Robert Shaw is chasing down Robert Redford, like that character.
Right.
But, and he knows that character as a different name. I think the name was like Smith or something that he gave.
Well, he knows him as Kelly, right?
Yeah. So he's giving him. So there already is that kind of clash of things. I don't think they would have done the FBI thing the same way if he didn't go, oh yeah, by the way, there's a cop chasing me.
Right, but that's how they keep Durning in check too, is because Durning is there at that abandoned warehouse where the FBI is set up. Durning sees,
but they've already got their grift going before he says, "Hey, by the way, this cop is chasing me down," and they have to loop in Durning as a separate character,
and they have to bring in Dana Elcar from MacGyver to be the FBI agent then.
Which I don't know what it would have been as a thing if. I mean, maybe they would have kept the FBI agent part, but really what allows them to get away is the FBI running in.
Right.
So it's I wonder what their grift would have been if they didn't have to get the FBI involved or whatever. Or maybe it still would have been the FBI. I would guess
it still would have been the FBI, right?
Yeah.
They do such a good job of making sure that whenever the feds are talking to Redford, right, that Durning is always there, right? We never have an unnecessary interaction between the feds and Redford because, of course, they're all in on it, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just such as you go back, and if once you know that and you kind of go back, whether you remembered it or whether you're watching it, now for the first time, spoiler, that they do such a great job of bringing you into that world so that you're convinced that Redford is selling them out.
Yeah.
Did you know that the actors didn't know either?
Oh, interesting.
The actors were only given parts of the script. They shot 3 different endings. They all had to sign. Anyone who was in the room for any of the 3 endings had to, they shot the end with a skeleton crew. The entire movie, George Roy Hill was playing games with perspective with the actors and only letting them see certain things happen. So they were genuinely in the dark on things. Which is
a lot
fucking
of work.
wild. This movie, from my understanding, took a while to film.
Yeah, that's crazy. It also gives you options of either expanding things outwards or choosing a different way that the movie could end.
This could be apocryphal. This is IMDb trivia, so who knows if that's true. But Redford apparently did not see this movie until 2004.
That's crazy.
Because he was shooting. What the fuck was he? He left to shoot something right after this, like when it was basically finished, and so he never saw it on the festival circuit, or never saw it on the like circuit. Never saw it like at the premiere or anything like that. So
yeah, here it is. The Sting, the movie Robert Redford refused to watch, and he says on this. It wasn't until 2004 that he saw it for himself. To be 31 years to actually see The Sting, I could enjoy it in the sense I was no longer looking at myself, but the character on screen.
I know he had a problem. He did not like watching himself act.
I mean, I wouldn't either.
I've heard that before. And I think that there's probably a preciousness that he may have had with this movie and working with Newman that you know, keeping the memories of the production intact. You know, it's like I heard something about how Carlton Fisk never watched the highlight of him hitting the home run
in Game 6 of... Yeah.
Because he didn't want his memories to be affected by what he was seeing on screen, right? And I think maybe there was a little bit of that of Redford wanting to preserve and be careful with his memories on working with this movie and not seeing it through the prism that we all see it through, which is the movie.
Yeah. Did you guys see anything about their prank war that happened on this?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. So this was not the first prank that was played between the two of them on set, but Newman brought in a truck of chickens and loaded them into Redford's trailer and then barricaded them in there. And so the chickens like fucked up all kinds of costumes, and it took the costume department like a couple days. Like I know they had to shut down production for at least a day because of this chicken incident. Newman was also doing this with George Roy Hill, and at one point Newman went into George Roy Hill's office at Universal and with a chainsaw sawed his fucking desk in half. And then Universal tried to bill Newman $800 for this desk, and he said, fuck off, I'm not going to pay that. But Redford then, after the chicken incident, took a dead perch and hit it in Newman's Ferrari.
Jesus.
And so this fucking perch was like stinking up, because I'm assuming Newman's Ferrari was like parked right next to set. Because, you know, Newman would have been one of the people who could have parked next to set if you're shooting at Universal. So he fucking had this dead perch that no one could fucking locate the smell of, that was like sitting there like stinking out the whole fucking crew for like a few days.
That's quite the star privilege. I don't think every actor on a movie set could get away with this. I don't think Blake Lively could get away with this.
I don't know about that, but
you could. Yeah, I think you could. She could probably get away with it. But
yeah,
apparently there's like multiple times where Paul Newman faked his own death, including staging a car, like a massive car accident, where he pretended it was his car that got smashed to pieces. And like,
nice.
not on this movie, but apparently he made it seem like his car crashed, and then had everyone like tell the director that his car crashed to like freak him out.
Christ.
Like, oh, we're gonna have, yeah. That is a very the Sting style,
yeah.
Kind of
well,
thing.
and they were doing this. Newman and Redford kept this shit going.
Oh shit! He's actually staged it. He staged it on set and then dropped a dummy to make it look like it was his body that dropped out of the fucking car.
Wow,
fantastic! Right. For like an hour, I bet that director thought he killed fucking Paul Newman.
Yeah, there's some serious sadistic qualities here.
So, you obviously didn't remember a ton about The Sting, but expected to like it based on your general respect for Redford and his oeuvre. Did that expectation hold true for you?
Yeah. Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
So, this is obviously generally regarded as a good to great film. Are there any movies that you liked as a kid that you've revisited as an adult that you didn't like upon rewatch?
I mean, if something was bad when I was I'm afraid it's going to be bad, at least as an adult. Like I generally don't watch it.
Okay.
Again, a second time. I don't know, a second time.
But have you had any incidents where you were surprised to not like it?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay. Just
if I'm
curious,
afraid
since
of that,
that's sort of the general thrust
yeah.
of this podcast that we're obviously not going to be able to speak to with regards to the Sting. So is this one you'll be tempted to revisit sooner than the 15-ish years that it took you to rewatch it now?
Yeah, it's good. Just like the cons on cons on cons. Like this feels like a movie like I might not watch like in full, but I'll definitely watch like scenes from a bunch of
the poker scene in the train.
Yeah.
Fuck, man. Newman's so good in that. When he keeps saying the wrong goddamn name and keeps getting Lonergan like more and more and more incensed. You know?
Yeah.
I still don't know. They have this great switch, right, with the hand model, so to speak, where he's doing the card tricks. And I had to watch it twice to see. It's
probably the same guy who does the balls in Labyrinth.
Yeah. We should actually look into that because there was a hand specialist who did the crystal ball tricks in Labyrinth. But the card work, right, that supposedly Gondorf is doing is so brilliant and like so effortless what he's doing there. And you really have to, he does such a great job. George Roy Hill. Or
different guy.
Okay.
Micromotion did it for...
Micromotion, Jesus. Okay, but the guy doing the card tricks here, right?
Yeah.
Is really great. And at the last second, he takes his hands out of frame, they cut, and then Newman sits down in that chair. So it's not a Texas switch, so to speak, because it's not done in camera, but it is really, really close to being seamless.
It's seamless. The cut you can't really see.
Because all Newman has to do then is just
sit down and put his hand back in the shot.
No, he just has to flip back the fan that the guy has spread out, showing all the cards. Now he just has to turn that back, and it probably something that he practiced quite a bit. But I don't know how he does the switch of his cards, right? We don't ever see that. It's something that we see.
He has a shit hand, and then
he has a great hand.
He has a great hand that is supposed to lose to a better hand.
He has 4 threes, which is amazing. You would bet every fucking
you'd go all in on 4 threes.
And it's supposed to lose to 4 nines. And so how he gets 4 jacks is like one of the great mysteries of this movie because, 10 minutes prior, we see him doing all the ace flips, cutting the deck, flipping the ace. We don't see him doing that, but we see his character doing it.
Yeah.
But to know how he was able to do that in that room with Robert Shaw's thug sitting behind him.
Right.
Is insane.
Well, he does go into his shirt pocket right here. So I could see it coming in that move somewhere, whether it's in the sleeve but I could see it coming in that move.
But because of the stakes of that hand and the amount of money, every character is turning, right? Every character is now like riveted by the action of the scene.
These guys who all ate Henry.
He is cheating in front of a ruthless gangster.
Mm-hmm.
We see Robert Shaw cheat with the deck, right? How he floats that deck down to his lap and hides it away in a handkerchief.
Right.
We don't see how Newman gives himself 4 jacks.
The look on his fucking thug's face.
Yeah. I mean, the look on everybody's face in that scene.
Just the amount of money that they bet would have been, in today's money, like with inflation or whatever, it would have been $350,000.
Yeah. It's a World Series of Poker.
Because he asks for $10K more.
Yeah.
Or was it 15? It was 10 or 15.
I think it's 15 because in the end he wins 15 because yeah.
But he says Lonergan turns to the dealer and says, "Cash me in for 10,000 more."
Yeah.
And so like that by itself is $230,000 or whatever right now.
Yeah.
Bonkers. Like that's a shitload of money to win on a hand.
More Unkind Rewind right after these messages.
So let's move on to picking up the scraps. What have we not talked about yet that y'all want to talk about?
So there is the scene that I think is, and I feel like Sean, as a person that does theater, you probably picked up on this too. There's the whole part where they have to like do it on the fly because Lonergan decides he wants the thing to happen like right then, right? He's like, we have to do it tomorrow. So they have to go to the Western Union and introduce him to like his business partner to slow him down. And in that moment, they have the 2 guys come in as if they're going to do painting so they can take over the room at the Western Union. And then the other guy, like the Harold Gould, like that character, he walks out with them, and then they have literally just that 5 seconds that they have to, you know, keep them in place, and then they call the guy that's already in that room on the radio, and, you know, or whatever, on the broadcast. So he comes back in, and then he's like, oh, they only painted like a tiny bit of that thing. But that whole like moving sequence where it's just it's 30 seconds in a Western Union building that they have to use to get him to believe that this is like a legitimate partner is just so good. Because it's like that does feel like one of those like Better Call Saul kind of scams where everything's like moving parts. But in this, I feel like everything's way more rehearsed except for that one sequence.
Even the balls to like call your secretary in that moment.
Yeah.
Right? Because he like legitimately presses down on the intercom to call his secretary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Knowing that by the time they're going to like quizzically wonder what the hell's going on and come back to the office, they're going to be gone.
Right.
And the acceptable losses of like the tarp, right? And the paint of just like, you'll clean it up.
How long do you think that guy was sitting there looking at his partially painted fucking wall in that office?
Like, are they going to come back?
Like how long's their lunch?
Because he looks at him and he has that line. And he's like, you know, well, the managers, they don't care about us little people or whatever.
Right.
So he's he's like goading the class resentment of this guy within that moment to try to like to get him to believe, you know, that his boss did that without him or whatever, without even like talking to him about it.
Couple scraps for me, and then, you know, as they come up, guys chime in. But Luther's played by James Earl Jones' father.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who was also my dad's vocal coach in the 70s.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes.
Shout out Robert Jones.
Did he give him that nice low baritone?
Yeah, I think that's where it came from my dad.
Your dad does a mean Darth Vader?
Yeah, I would love to have seen Robert Jones try a Darth Vader.
Yeah.
You know, his father's father.
Yeah.
But this movie really could be just called
Luke, I am your father's father.
I'm your granddad. This movie could just be called Redford Sprinting, right? And like we've seen Redford hustle in movies before. I mean, 3 Days of the Condor, as Josh mentioned. Obviously, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, he's moving a lot. But like the sprinting in this movie in flat black dress shoes.
Yeah.
Insane.
Well, they do what's essentially like a Benny Hill sequence. I mean, you know, like except for it's not sped up. It's like, you know, it's a sequence of it. But he has a thing where he knows that Snyder's too fat to get up on that roof, so he's kind of like running around the roof, and then which Snyder books it throughout this as like you know, Charles Durning, like despite his like kind of like rotund size, which it's not as apparent as like Dog Day Afternoon. I think he's a little bit bigger than he is here.
I mean, he's in front of a bank that whole time. He doesn't have to like hustle the way he does have.
I would guess that you can see him gaining weight at craft services throughout the shooting of Dog Day Afternoon.
But you know, even the protector Forrest that shoots Salino there at the end, the way that he kind of runs up to Redford is so comical.
Yeah,
he's kind of like a bigger guy.
Well, because they leave you at a distance. Because I feel like so much of comedy in movies is perspective. And what makes that run so comical is that they leave you at that distance. So you have to watch him sprint all the way up holding that gun.
It is a Silent Hill movie shot of him running up with the gun. Redford's just kind of traumatized over what's just happened and having, you know, him explain what's been going on.
But that's like another level of because that guy, it turns out, is just like a guy that was hired by Paul Newman to watch over Robert Redford and make sure that, you know, when the person finally comes to kill him, they get the person first. Yeah. And then you're watching that the entire time. You think the black gloves, some of the scenes at Salino, but in some of the scenes when you see him putting on the black glove and you think, oh shit, that's like, because he looks kind of like an Al Capone type body type and kind of facial type. I feel like that actor. And so you're like, oh, that's the guy that they've hired to like do away with Robert Redford. And it's like, no, he managed to you know, bang the assassin they sent to kill him.
Do you guys know what I mean when I say Charles Durning jump scare? There's a scene where Redford comes back to his apartment.
Oh, the phone, when he's talking on the phone.
Yeah, it's pretty late, right? He comes back and Durning is hiding in the shadows. It's before he takes him to the feds. It's when he finally catches Redford. And Durning comes out of nowhere. It is like a horror movie. And he slams Redford up against the wall.
Well, that's the war hero.
Yeah, that's the war hero.
I remember that, but the thing that kind of almost scared me is when he's talking on the phone and Durning punches out the phone booth like glass and then grabs him through the phone booth. And that's
where the two cuts come from on Redford's face.
And then Redford manages to escape by doing the ragtime thing on the roof, which he's like, this guy's not going to be able to chase me down on the roof. Like,
so Durning was the only guy in his fucking unit that stormed the beach of fucking Normandy. Only guy in his unit who didn't get killed.
Wow.
Damn. That's
only guy
crazy.
who didn't get killed. So he ends up at some point, he's wounded by an anti-personnel mine.
It happens.
And he is in recovery. He's like at a military hospital recovering for 6 months.
That's why it's an anti-personnel mine. He was the personnel.
So he's recovering for 6 months, and then he fucking breaks out and goes back to the fucking front in Belgium. He fights at the fucking Battle of the Bulge. So he storms Normandy. He's at the Battle of the Bulge. For his valor during the war, he received the Silver Star, the Bronze Star, 3 fucking Purple Hearts. He also was awarded the Army Good Conduct Medal, the Army Campaign Medal, and the European, African, Middle Eastern Campaign Medal with the Arrowhead device and 2 Bronze Service Stars and the World War II Victory Medal. His badges include Combat Infantryman Badge, Expert Badge with Rifle Bar, and the Honorable Service Lapel Pin. He received the French National Order of the Legion of Honor from the French consul in Los Angeles, too.
Okay, so he's got a full mantle.
Look up Charles Durning, like look up World War II veteran, like his picture. It's not the same physique or the same like he looks like he's ready for battle. Are you talking about the one where
he's kind of like got his arm crossed?
Yeah, it's like his war picture that they probably took so that they could send it to his family when inevitably he was like.
He's wearing like a
I'm going to share it here in a second here.
Like a helmet.
Okay.
He's wearing the helmet.
I mean, you see it in the nose and those lips. He's got the very famous cleft chin.
He's got a very serious face. Like he's got like a very just his features, right? Like I don't think like you. There's no way. Yeah, that picture. There's no way that guy would like you'd trust that guy to fucking sell you like a used car or something. You know what I mean?
He looks like a slim guy
like,
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm saying like just his physique and like the way he looks in movies, right? Like when he has his acting career kind of take off, like he's like the kind of guy that has something sinister about him that like you wouldn't buy a used car off him or anything like that. Like he's both because he's always I mean, not always, but he often plays a cop, but he's always the kind of cop that like, if he was like, hey buddy, you want to buy this car? You're like, okay, where'd you get this from? Like, let me hear the backstory. Like
So locations-wise, they shot this mostly on the backlot at Universal. There are a couple of famous places they shot.
You can tell.
They shot at the Castle Green in Pasadena, which you watch a lot of stuff that shoots in the 30s and is shot there, like or that's going for that vibe. Like the Grifters had scenes that were shot there. Shitloads of movies shot there. It's right by where the Old Town Pasadena train stop is on the Yellow Line. Then it shot the carousel is from the Santa Monica Pier.
What movie? There's a movie that I'm thinking of, like from the 50s. I feel like that I've seen that shot at Castle.
I mean, it's a very prominent, like you see things that are going for that 30s vibe, and they so frequently shoot there. Like I think even the Puppet Master shot there.
Well, I should hope so.
Which is weird. But anyway, so the carousel is at the Santa Monica Pier.
Oh, a lonely place.
Oh, yeah, right.
I wonder if that's because there's scenes that look like,
and it would make sense because the rest of that shot like on the Warner Brothers lot, right? The old Warner Brothers lot, I think.
Yeah.
Then they did shoot a couple of things in Chicago, but they only shot in Chicago for 3 days. So they shot the Union Station scene where. Apparently it was like the Beatles had fucking come to town with Newman and Redford at Union Station. But that's supposed to serve as a train station in New York going back to Chicago.
It's a great shot, though. I mean, the production design of that, you're just not going to be able to get that with a set.
No, you can't. When the guy goes up the stairs to Lonigan's room, that's at the Castle Green in Pasadena. And then the one elevated line, I've seen two different people say, someone said that was a 43rd Street station, and it looks like it's still Chicago, but I saw someone else say that was a built set, so.
It is strange. I can't wrap my head around it. It almost looks like an effect, right?
Well, because I know they did a lot of, like, scrimmed map paintings and, like, a lot of forced perspective stuff to make it look like it was Chicago.
We're talking about, this is a shot, it's on the last day Redford is sleeping in the bed of Celino. He wakes up kind of late. Celino's gone. But the way that day starts is with kind of an early morning Chicago L shot. And I couldn't really wrap my head around what was going on in that shot. My spidey sense is saying something's wrong with it or something's artificial about it. But I didn't know for sure what it was.
And then they definitely shot at the old LaSalle Street station that was torn down like 2 years later. But I know that those are the main off-the-lot shots. Almost everything was shot on the lot at Universal, though. This screenplay was sitting in a slush pile at Mike Medavoy's desk in his office before he founded, because he was a co-founder of Orion Films. But Rob Cohen, the director of The Fast and the Furious, Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, Dragonheart, and Triple X, was working as Medavoy's reader at the time. This was when Medavoy was still at International Famous Agency. And Cohen did coverage on this script from the slush pile, and in the coverage said that The Sting was, quote, the great American screenplay and will make an award-winning major cast, major director film. Medavoy then said that he tried to sell it on that recommendation because he was about to go meet with Universal, but that he would fire fucking Cohen if it didn't sell. Based on basically, I'm going in with your pitch from your coverage, and if it doesn't sell, you're fucking done. But it did sell, and Cohen has that framed on his fucking wall, his coverage.
Does he? But did he get like he should have had it so that if it does this well, right, he gets a promotion, and if it doesn't do
I
as
assume
well,
he got a promotion because he's a director. You know, he directs his first film in like 1980, so it took like 6 years, but he did get to direct something fairly quickly after that, especially having just been working on someone's desk. So David S. Ward is the credited screenwriter here. He clearly looked to David Moore's 1940 nonfiction book, The Big Con, as multiple character names, were basically nods to real-life characters from that fucking book. I don't know how he got Best Original Screenplay, because this was
weird.
So I saw two different figures, but it was either a $300,000 or $600,000 lawsuit that Universal settled to quash the lawsuit that David Moore placed. But yes, this won 7 Oscars, including Best Original Screenplay. It was nominated for 10. The two it didn't win were Sound, Cinematography, and Redford. The ones it did win were Best Picture, Best Director, Best Original Screenplay, Best Costumes, which was Edith Head's 8th and final win. Edith Head, of course, is the legendary costume designer who I believe has the most Oscar wins of anybody. Maybe John Williams has her now?
Well, Walt Disney has the most, but yeah.
Oh, shit. Yeah. But those are like special dumb...
Whatever. Yeah. I mean, we're just talking whatever.
Right.
We could get into it. We're not going to.
Yeah. But Edith had, she worked with Hitchcock a lot. The costumes building at Universal is fucking named after her. And that was after she had worked at Paramount before. So...
If I'm Edith Head, the last thing I want is for Paul Newman to shove a bunch of fucking chickens into a trailer with my costumes.
Yeah. But he did. But yeah, Ward's script was initially a lot darker, and then George Roy Hill came on and clearly knew that if he changed it just a little bit...
there's still a lot of dark shit.
There's darkness, but it was a grittier, like, 70s script before.
Yeah, we have a guy tossed out a window. We have the illusion of somebody who winds up with a screwdriver or a knife in their eye.
Yeah.
I like how they talked about that numbers runner at the beginning. Like, we found him drunk in a dive. I'm like, yeah, like that's his last, like he's going out. He knows that he can't run.
Right.
So he's just drinking, having lost, what was it? Like 250,000. I mean, it was a lot of money, right?
It was $11,000 in that money. So 250, equivalent to 256.
He's lost that. They kill him for that.
Yeah,
and then,
well, because Long has the entire thing where he's image obsessed in a way that, like, even back then, right? Like, I don't even know if like the gangsters back then were as image obsessed, being like, look, my friends from when I was a kid would cut my throat, like if we let this guy get away. Apparently, one of the things during principal photography is that they didn't use that many, like, ironically, considering how many people are just kind of in the in the space that they had to actually use, right? They talked about how like watching 1930s movies, like James Cagney movies, George Roy Hill was talking about how they don't actually have like a lot of extras that they would use at the time. So he was like, apart from those giant scenes, they didn't use extras, which kind of feels like cheating in a way to like even say that, because it's like there's 200 people in that room.
Right. Well, it does feel like cheating in a way too, because like that's an enormous, I mean, not an enormous, Josh probably knows about this having worked in production, but like having to not worry about a fuck ton of extras as you fill up Chicago.
Yep.
Like what an enormous time save that would be. What an enormous cost cutting measure that takes.
I was watching Strange Days maybe a month ago, and just thinking about the extras.
Oh God.
Had me sort of panicking, because I've had to be the background wrangler on sets before.
And that's like not even like having to manufacture hundreds of period piece costumes.
Yeah.
If they really had to fill, I mean, it's funny because when we see some of the diner have activity, right? That's like, you know, maybe the burlesque show is like the only time where we're kind of getting some
the platform at 43rd Street,
the train station when
the train station is not that populated though. It's mostly
nothing is really that populated, right?
Yeah.
Nothing would be as populated as it would be in Chicago in the 30s, even with the Depression on.
Mm-hmm. No, my grandma was in Chicago in the 30s.
Yeah, and then, of course, bear in mind, like, this is before the massive migration to the suburbs of the 1950s. So cities like this, especially Chicago, are fucking packed all the time. And think about how many times Robert Redford is running down a street.
Empty streets.
A bare street, where we can hear the reverberations of his footsteps.
Yeah. Thankfully, because that sound design's great. I love hearing his footsteps just sprinting down.
Well, also
he's fast.
You have to have that character be alone in the world, because he does that whole like mopey, like, you know, like it's 2 a.m. and I don't know anybody kind of thing. And it's like, because no one's out right now. It's just you. He
went so hard there, you know, like he doesn't have to because he's Robert Redford. But like that's a really kind of heart to heart he has with the waitress before he knows who she is, right?
Right.
But like even the most like frigid, tired, exasperated waitress is going to let a person who doesn't even look like Robert Redford into their room because of like the connection he has at that moment, right? He is feeling kind of the weight of the world and the pressure of everything that's going on. This is the night before, right? Newman sits in bed with a cigarette, kind of staring off into space. Redford needs to be with someone, right? He needs to just have company. He needs to feel
isn't Newman in bed with Elaine Brennan's character?
Yeah.
We should mention, we just saw fucking last week in Clue. Or 2 weeks ago in Clue.
And we should bring up in this, she doesn't have much to do.
Right. Durning accidentally spills a beer on her hand.
Right. But she doesn't have much to do in this movie. But yeah, she has, you know, we see the relationship as these kind of.
Well, if she had more to do than just those scenes, also you'd have to find out more about her, and then you'd have to find out like she's running her own
at this. Yeah.
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 If we're getting greedy, we have her play more of a con in the OTB place, right?
Yeah. Rather
than just kind of this floater.
Right.
Yeah.
And I completely forgot that Newman is basically a pimp in this movie. Like he's in charge of these girls. Like that's the thing that kind of like in between cons kind of keeps things afloat, right?
Yeah.
I thought it was a great touch that they ask to turn the merry-go-round on. Like, you know, the girls had a hard night or whatever it was.
Or slow night. It's a slow night. It's a slow night.
Can
we turn on, we're going to go down and turn on the merry-go-round?
Yeah. Because no matter how hard life is, who doesn't want to take a couple spins on a merry-go-round? Josh, you
only see that one part where Snyder or whatever tries to get into where the girls are and is like, let me see what's going on back there. Like that's the big part where you really get to see what his like real.
I love that scene.
Yeah.
She's great in that scene.
And he dumps the beer on her hands, like,
which was an accident.
It doesn't look
that was an accident. That wasn't written. He didn't mean to do that. And then they're like, it kind of works. We're just going to fucking use it.
It looks very intentional how he does it.
It looks intentional, but it was not. Durning did not mean to. Like he basically lost control of the beer in his hand and spilled it on her hand.
Because the way he does it looks sinister.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also kind of showing you that, like, that's not one of his vices. Like, he doesn't want a free drink. He's not going to be tricked here.
Yeah.
He's just cold-blooded about finding Redford and getting his money.
Yeah. You were about to say something, right, Forrest?
No, I was just saying, like, It seems like it's just a sinister, it's like a way that he is able to, without using violence against a woman in that scene, right? Like, he's able to show, like, I can do whatever the fuck I want.
Oh, this also one for editing and score. I left those two off. I got sidetracked with Edith Head.
More movie talk on the Unkind Rewind right after this.
Robert Shaw, the limp, real.
Yeah, I read that.
Yeah, he injured himself. He was playing handball on a wet court and fucking blew out his knee. And so he was wearing a knee brace under those pants.
I want to know what this guy's like, because there's all the stories about Jaws. He would just go on benders and he would disappear.
Well, he dies in 78. So
yeah, but by the point of Jaws, he would go on benders and he would skip the border for whatever reason. He would end up in Canada, and because they're filming in Nantucket or whatever. Yeah, so like they're filming in that whole area, so he would just skip the border and he would end up on a bender in like Canada, and they would have to go all the way up to Canada and bring him back every single time. And it's like that guy's life has to be like pretty crazy, and like he's playing like handball. And
I mean, yeah, he's terrific, and he's terrific in this. The way that we kind of get introduced to him, I thought was so fitting. We just see this shadowy figure playing cards with just one other person. He's off to this special room. There's no company there. We hear that he has like no vices, right? He's an Irishman who doesn't drink, smoke, or go after dames. But the first time that we see him, he's basically giving an order to have people killed, right? Mm-hmm. He's great in this, and it's sad what kind of, the trajectory of his life, because you think about anybody who dies early, how many projects he could have given us, what he would have been like through the 80s, what his later in life career would have looked like, how many great roles he could have taken on. And also to know, like, this was not a secret that Robert Shaw was a liability. Right. And that it could completely fuck up a production for a couple days because he was hungover or on a bender or whatever.
Well, he and Hill went on a bender in Ireland.
Yeah.
And Hill was just like, Jesus Christ. Hill basically couldn't keep up.
But like to know that is like an open secret and still work with him and still bring him in.
Well, it was like every guy coming from the Isles, every male actor at that time seemed like that was them. Be it Oliver Reed or fucking Richard Burton, whoever, Peter O'Toole, like all of them seemed to be like epic drunks.
Yeah. And to know that they were still getting work, like they hadn't been blacklisted, just shows you how talented they were. Like it was worth.
Well, all right. So I guess part of the story with his famous benders is that his wife died 2 years after this. So his wife died in 75. Uh-huh. So one of the few things that were kind of tethering him, so that things weren't as bad, or whether it's The Sting or whether it's like, other movies before this, like one of the few things tethering him down to earth and like not letting him become like this insane person was just stripped away from him as Jaws was being filmed.
Right. I've got one more thing to add. So she says Man of War threw a kid.
Yeah, I made that note, Josh.
So Man of War was thought of as one of the greatest resources in history. His owner, because of his age and like didn't want him to race too hard, before X age, didn't have Man of War race at the Kentucky Derby. And this is sort of this is 1919, 1920. So this is before the Triple Crown was an official thing. So he didn't run the Derby, but Man of War went 21-0, losing only at Saratoga. He won the Preakness and the Belmont. He sired War Admiral. Mm-hmm. War Admiral being a Triple Crown winner. And was grandsire to fucking Seabiscuit.
Yeah.
What a pedigree.
Yes. What a fucking pedigree.
But just as a side note, I knew that Josh, if he needed a saving grace, was going to have the line about how a faulty merry-go-round resulted in a child tossed on his head.
Yes. Yes.
This is back before you could sue anybody for malpractice of a merry-go-round.
That's what you get for getting on a merry-go-round, kid.
Or especially Man of War.
Man of War is going to do what Man of War wants to.
An editorial on his death in the New York Times said, "No other horse has ever won such fame. None was more beautiful, with lovelier lines of grace and power. None was more beloved by an admiring and faithful public. Few have lived so long. The American scene seems a little vacant with Man of War gone to the Elysian fields where all the good horses go."
Man of War was in, I believe, 1920. It was the Time Sportsman of the Year alongside Babe Ruth. So there's that. But yeah, Man of War, fast horse.
What a stud.
What a stud. And he got to go to stud pretty quickly. Ran those 21 races, lost the last, I think it was last race of his first season racing, and then won every single race he was entered in his age 3 year. Oh, I did. I was listening back, and I know you'd mentioned offhand that Robert Gould was Elliot Gould's dad.
Yeah, he's not. Harold
yeah, I
Gould's
looked
not.
into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to correct that before the audience is all pissed at us.
I've been thinking about that ever since that moment.
But
Harold
I didn't
Gould
think
was not
about
Elliot
it, and
Gould.
then I looked it up just to double check, because I double check. I fact check everything. And it was like, oh, I mean, I could see where the only reason I even checked was because I had done a dive on Elliot Gould for fucking Munch My Benson. That's the only reason I was like, I didn't remember his dad being an actor. I thought his dad was like a normie, but.
Yeah, his dad is.
But Robert Gould is fucking great in this.
Harold Gould.
He's so fun as Kid Twist.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, this cast is really fantastic. I suppose we should.
Harold Gould. Robert Gould's a different guy.
Oh, shit. It's Harold Gould? Fuck.
Yeah.
Okay.
I kept saying Robert Earl Jones. That probably got you.
Yeah, Harold Gould. My bad.
Gripes.
Yeah, gripes. Do we have any? Starting with Forrest, if you have one, what's your biggest gripe of the film this go around?
I don't really have any gripes with this film. I think it's good.
Okay. Sean, do you have any?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing about watching this now, present day, there's two things that happens. One is I see the warts more clearly than I would have, as a college kid. And I also see the little touches that this movie does so well that, again, I probably would have been completely unaware of watching it for the first time. But, there are some weird issues. Calling Robert Redford kid, he's pushing 37, 38 at this point.
I don't think that's, I don't know, the people were just a kid back then. Kid.
Right.
If you're older than the person.
Originally the character was supposed to be 19.
Yeah, and I think that might have been a remnant of a script, right?
Yeah.
That just calling this guy 30... I mean, Newman's pushing... He's
Newman's
40...
9 years older than Redford is, so
let's say he's 48 or 49 in this. That's not really, kind of the broken down old man coming back for one more. I think that, if you were to go by the script or go by the book, that there would probably be a bigger disparity in age, and that Johnny Hooker would be more of an idealist, bright, bushy-tailed young kid who needs to learn the ropes. Because I think by the time you're 37, 38, and you've been in this game, that you're not a kid anymore, right? And you don't need the tutelage of a guy who's 9 years older than you, having been trained, presumably, by Robert Earl Jones, this older guy. It's more just confusing and less of kind of a tip of the cap for Newman to use the name Shaw in a scene with Robert Shaw. Yeah. And have to go the entire time playing a character named Shaw, especially because how I talk about movies, I almost very rarely, and if you listen to this podcast, you'll know that Josh and we don't really talk about character names. I mean, this is rare that we're talking about Johnny Hooker, but that's probably because we both like hookers. I think for the most part, though, we always talk about character names. And so for a movie like this...
Or actor names.
Actor names, right.
Yeah.
Having a character named Shaw, I guess it's kind of their way of winking at the audience a little bit.
There are a lot of those kind of Easter egg things that are going on that are hard for us to discern also, but made up brands and shit like that are crew members' last names and stuff so I know that they're kind of being cheeky.
Right.
And amusing themselves on set.
Okay, yeah.
Which I can respect, but it is confusing.
Yes.
When he but I just laughed and thought it was funny when he said Shaw. It's confusing if you have to talk about this movie.
Yeah, I had that thought too, where it was oh, this Robert Shaw and he's Shaw, and yeah.
I think that this is during a time in cinema where, as great as the costume design was, The blood makeup is shit.
Yeah, it's really bad, yeah.
This is spaghetti western type of like squibs that we got going on here. I mean, even the cut on poor Robert Earl Jones's legs, even though it's fake, probably, is bad. The blood work here is just, yeah, it's bad 70s slasher movie blood, spaghetti western blood. And again, this is a movie that has so many kind of tendrils and plot lines that the fact that the guy who fucked over their runner, right, that they're looking for this guy, that Robert Shaw is looking for Johnny Hooker, trying to find the guy that fucked him over, having already killed Luther, and they don't know what he looks like. They don't know that he's this like stunningly handsome blonde guy, that they have no photograph of Johnny Hooker.
No one could afford photographs. It's a depression, Sean.
Well, we do have the mugshots, right, of the two killers.
Yeah.
They were the ones chasing him down the stairwell.
Right, but I don't think they ever got a good look at him because he, his little like matchbook thing in the door.
I mean, even Celino, who has plenty of time to look at him, right? Mm-hmm. And plenty of time to convey to the guy out in the street that, yeah, he's here. He's this really great looking blonde guy.
But I don't think she knows that he is her target until the scene with the open bathroom window. I don't think she has figured out who her target is until that point in time.
Okay, maybe. But like she's probably needs to be...
Because no one, Lonergan's people, know for sure who this guy is to look at. Like...
Because it's also supposed to be he's that much of like a loser in the con game that like there's no record of him.
He's a penny ante street grifter.
And he wasn't even looking to score from Lonergan at that point. He just,
dumb luck.
I mean, yeah, they found Luther really quickly, right? They had men in...
But Luther is supposed to be more of an established presence. Like,
yes.
This is just a like Luther is someone.
Luther had all of these friends that have like that are coming out of the woodwork to like go after Lonergan.
Yeah, and he has he also is like good friends with like one of the most famous big con people.
Because every bunko man knows Henry.
I don't think if you're Celino and you realize, like with the open window in the bathroom thing, that you wait until Redford comes to your door. And then, there's a quick line about how she couldn't do it then because people saw you go into
Well, the neighbor
apartment.
lady across the way saw him come in.
Right. But I mean, as soon as he's sitting there in the stall, like just take him out there. It did feel like they're quickly putting a bow on it before we really got too much time with Celino. I'm having to work for gripes here, guys, just so you know.
Yeah.
I'm having to do some work.
Uh-huh.
I would have liked a bigger role for Brennan, right? Like, I think she's super talented. There's not a lot of stuff for women here. And again, one thing that I said really early on is that because of these guys, they have such different paths that by the time we get to middle of the movie, we lose so much of that Newman Redford rapport. We don't get as many scenes with them as
I would
as
definitely
love
more of that.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, in terms of like gripes, like I really had to work,
Very minor. This is definitely a minor gripe.
Like I don't see Johnny Hooker getting fucked over on a crooked roulette game, knowing what he knows about,
and knowing that the fix was in and like whatever.
And yeah, and it's the roulette guy himself putting his fingers underneath the table to like make sure that it's black.
Right.
Yeah, but the thing with that is I assumed either, I guess this is an assumption on my part, either he kind of owed something to the roulette guy because it seems like they have some kind of relationship, or it seems like that's the only thing he could think to do. He's that much of like a single-minded kind of like loser, small time grifter that the one thing he could think to do with that amount of money to impress the girl is like, I'm gonna put it on, all on black. Sure. And like but it also sets it up for that line, right? Like it completely sets it up for that line where he says at the end, "Oh, I'm just gonna blow all the money if I take it,"
right?
Because you've seen him really stupidly do it.
Yeah, and he could have done that without the cheating. He could have just done that on a realistic roulette game. That he was so like amped up by this score.
Well, but it sets up the stakes, which is that the house always wins. and like literally, even the roulette game is its own grift.
Everything's crooked.
The fix is in, it's Chicago for fuck's sake, or Joliet, but same diff.
I feel like it's setting you up for that moment where it's like, it's like everything in this world is rigged and everyone in this world is trying to cheat each other out of something. Yeah. That you can't even get a fair shot. So I actually liked that part of it. There's
a point after the continuation of that scene where he is kind of rebuffed by his burlesque date, right? Because he's just lost all the money.
I feel like that's not realistic. She was.
Well, yeah, and he does this thing where he like tosses the champagne bottle. Like,
that's my big gripe. Like, this is the depression. You wouldn't get rid of that alcohol.
Well, what you do, like, if he's so affected by that the way that they shot that scene, we have like 3 hobos on a stairwell right there.
They should be running for that.
Running over. I'm like almost convinced that they did shoot it that way and that it was just clipped.
Right.
Or have him give the
exactly. Have him give it to the hobos.
That would have been a baller move.
Yeah, because in that moment, right? Because I think that when he throws it out, it's like he only cares about the alcohol if he's going to get laid based off of it, right?
Right.
But you have the thing where
trash the flowers,
and
you take
the canola,
champagne.
But you give it to the hobos, and then it shows like he's also got this in the same way that he has the connection to Luther, where it's like, they share everything and they're kind of, he has genuine affection for Luther's family and they live kind of in the slums. Like you kind of have him as like a figure that gives to like the less fortunate, or like is feels himself in the act of giving to the less fortunate rather than, just trashing the champagne.
Yeah. It's a very little thing, but again, the category here is gripes.
I feel like what they were going for is like shucks, I couldn't get laid if I tried, kind of like down on your luck thing. But it's like, it is the depression, and you're like,
it's a cooler move to give the bottle to the 3 hobos sitting on a stoop. I don't really have anything major.
Well, I didn't either.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much minor either. Like, it's hard for me to find a complaint about this movie. Really,
I feel like they build the world so much that I feel like having complaints is almost like, I'm like, well, who am I to complain about, whatever the logic of this depression universe is,
I mean, I think the map painting in the open with the picture of the merry-go-round, or maybe it's not the open, but like the map painting where you can see what's supposed to be old Chicago. I think that looks kind of bad. There are a couple of map paintings that don't look that great, but
how'd you feel about the kind of TV sitcom style of opening credits where we see like them presented right with?
Well, I think it's meant to be old timey in the way, because weren't like 30s screwball comedies kind of like that too? I'm having a hard time remember now, but
I think
they kind of had these like very
Enemy might have started that way.
Yeah, they kind of have these very drawn opening titles to a lot of them, because it's like they didn't really have the like transitions and effects at that point, so they were literally manually doing the animation for anything like that.
I'm just trying to think. It feels like there was like a Howard Hawks movie or something that I can't remember that did that, but I didn't have a problem with it. It plays a little weird, and some of the transitions, like some of the wipes, are a little weird to me.
Yeah,
but like that's such minor shit,
Yeah.
How would we fix this movie if we were making it today?
I mean, you might want to do something where it's not just like the old black guy that gets killed off. Like you might,
maybe he
like
lives,
that.
And it's the kid that dies.
Or just at least you have to do some kind of wink to it where it's like, we know it's always like the old black guy that gets killed off. He's like the expendable character. Like, I feel like that's one way of fixing it. I do feel like you guys are right about giving like the Salino character more of a role in a movie today, and giving Paul Newman's like live-in partner that's like kind of the madam of the house or whatever, like giving her more of
the women would have more to do now.
Yeah, the movie might pass the Bechdel test, right? If you did it today.
Potentially.
Rock movie. You got to give the women more of a role, but it's like, it feels very quintessentially like they're doing the dude's rock. Like, they're so focused on that part of it where it's like you're getting all these men in there to do all the like, all their grifting.
I think if you did it today, I think you would maybe align more with kind of the original concept. And that just means getting a younger Johnny and maybe an older Gondorf.
Sure. Yeah.
And again, the casting of that, I mean, they obviously failed doing a sequel to this movie.
Big time.
This was a Jackie Gleason bomb that they tried to do. The Sting 2. This is not an endorsement to go out and watch that, but to remake The Sting, I just don't think that you have the two actors. We talked about kind of the proxies for these guys today, and that's really a strain to come up with anybody close. We mentioned Clooney and Pitt, right? But like even them together, they don't really, I don't know. There's nothing close to Newman Redford.
No.
You'd have to make the casting of Gondorf and Hooker so unavoidably brilliant and uncontestably brilliant that people would be like, oh, okay, well, I can see that with these two guys. It's just the shoes that you have to fill with these two.
I don't know who could do it.
I don't know who could do it. Yeah.
I feel like pre-cancellation, I could see them going in a very different direction and doing like a Seth Rogen, James Franco kind of thing, where they make this movie more comical than it is.
Sure.
I probably wouldn't be good, but
I mean, you could even do like a gender reverse. You could have two women at the pinnacle of this thing. Might be easier to cast in a weird way.
Honestly, it probably would be easier to cast that way.
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting here trying to think of who the fuck you could go to as male actors, and I'm not coming up with much.
Yeah. And I think that so much, unfortunately, I mean, if you were to do the movie like 40 years in the past, right? If we're not going back to the 30s.
Okay, I just thought.
Go ahead.
The only two that come to mind.
Yeah.
That work for me.
Okay.
Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
And Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
Like, go back to The Well, because goddamn Nice Guys is so fucking good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Go back to That Well. That's the only dynamic that I could see kind of like playing out in a fun way that's jumping to mind at all.
Because you gotta get Ryan Gosling to keep getting the shit.
Yes,
out of
he's
him.
so fucking good at it. I don't know if there's anyone funnier to watch get their ass kicked than Ryan Gosling.
Well, yeah, and Redford certainly isn't funny to get his. I mean, that like they have totally different skill sets, those two guys.
Yeah.
But he does have the thing where it's like, every single woman is like, for a while at least, it was like Ryan Gosling, and every single woman is still like Robert Redford.
Ryan Gosling can like scrub up, like, in a way that like Redford never really could. Like Gosling can look like kind of a pathetic shitbag in some movies that Redford is just impossible to do that with.
And Ethan Hawke can do that too, but he's too old.
Yeah, and you could argue that like Gosling's comedic timing is better than both Redford and Hawke, right? Like Gosling has a knack that is a little bit underappreciated with comedy. I mean, even with the success of Ken from Barbie. Unkind Rewind, we'll be right back. The question isn't why you remake this movie. We put people in a tough spot on this show because that's what we do. It's like if hypothetically we had to remake this, we had to do it, right?
Usually it's, we can remake a bad movie and somehow make it better.
And we can fix it.
In this case, the task is a much bigger ask.
Josh, we talk about fixes so much, right? How would we fix this movie for today? And again, it's like, it's a real chore.
Right. Because there's not much to fix.
You wouldn't go back to the 30s. You wouldn't go back, 90 years.
No, you just leave it contemporary, I think.
You would leave it contemporary. So much of the movie, unfortunately, would be mired in computer conning.
Right.
And
which is
like
not
accounts.
Very fun.
And like, having, so much of the movie done with coding and...
Yeah, the jargon is just updated for this fucking century in a not fun way.
We're in the 1930s. They don't know what a computer is. All the cons have to be practical and analog. And it makes it so much more fun.
Although it would be interesting to take this movie, right? And then take the same amount of time that's elapsed.
And move it to 88 or whatever?
Yeah, you move it to 88. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You go back 40
years. If you can do it
years,
before cell phones, basically. If you can do it before cell phones, I think you still have a movie.
Yeah.
You have a shot. Yeah. All right. Saving Graces.
What was your favorite moment or element of the film, starting with Forrest?
I mean, I like anything that has a bunch of cons. I love the feeling that when you see it all come together, and it's like you've watched 2 hours of this, you've watched 2 hours of these cons on cons on cons on cons, and then you see it all come together. The FBI rushes in with Snyder. You see Robert Shaw limp in. You see everything kind of just come together in that moment, and then the con, like, it goes off in that moment, and you don't even have to have like like as much as this movie kind of you have to follow along with a lot, like you don't really have to have like always when you're watching a heist movie, right? Like it's like, oh, did they get away? Did this happen? Did this happen? There's none of that here. It's just, you know, the con just goes off and it's like they get to wander off into the sunset.
I mean, other than just kind of the obvious man meat of this movie, right? That is kind of inarguable.
Yes.
Having Robert Redford and Paul Newman in a movie, right? It only happened 2 times ever. And both those movies are phenomenal watches. Again, I go back to the first thing that I kind of said with the shot of those 2 guys in a tuxedo in 1930s style, looking at one another, knowing that this moment is going to make or break them, right? Mm-hmm. It's just a phenomenal little sequence of 5 or 6 seconds of celluloid that is going to show up for centuries, if we live that long, as any type of montage of these 2 actors. We will see that moment of Paul Newman and Redford looking at each other in the betting place. But I think, like, as I talked about earlier, having noticed, like, the little things this time around, that shows the care that went into this movie. Obviously, the production design of this thing is astounding. You feel like you're in the 1930s. There's little touches like when they're on the train, they cut to an exterior and they're kind of going past like a shanty town. Mm-hmm. They didn't need to do that. They didn't need to go past like a little shanty town with a hobo fire.
Right.
And they did, right?
The train's obviously all a set too, but...
Right. Yeah. But like Eileen Brennan walking with her beer bottles back from the room and knocking on the door to say time's up.
Yeah.
What a like
great little moment.
Ounce of like cinema.
Adding some verisimilitude to the whole.
And she walks past the door for a second and takes a step back. She doesn't look at her watch. Mm-hmm. She has an inner clock that this John has been with this prostitute for this amount of time. Time's up. What a nice little stroke to give her. And she doesn't have too many of these strokes that they gave her in this movie. But it's a great little touch. I mean, I love the kind of silent assembling of the crew that all Newman has to do is like stroke his nose and the banker quits, right?
Yeah.
Like he just turns in his 2 weeks, not even a 2 weeks notice.
Like grabs his shit and fucking like.
He spins that this death spot is closed.
Yeah.
He goes to tell his boss, I'm fucking out of here because he knows that this and even, you know, like we get so much more about how terrible Lonergan is from that guy who sets the room up to take a flat rate because he's convinced that who's the mark? Oh, it's Lonergan. I want my money right now.
Yeah.
I don't want to wait until I see what you make and get a percentage on that because that is not money that I can count on.
No.
It's a great way to tell
that they're fucking with
audience,
somebody who's
tell your audience who the stakes. Right? And just, they don't need to give us this, but the look back that Newman gives to the merry-go-round before they embark on this is such a nice little thing. Like he's just kind of taking a snapshot because he might not see it again. It might go awry, right?
Or they might have to take off again. Yeah. Like they're not going to be able to stay in the same spot. They might not be able to come back.
You're right. But this movie does this really kind of unique job of telling you what's coming and still letting the audience be surprised.
Yeah.
Every time, it doesn't say, you know, it says the hook, it says like the sting, it says the setup, it says the, you know, whatever, all those chapters are telling us what we're going to see. But even when we see like Robert Redford putting in blood capsules of his mouth, we don't really know what the hell he's doing until he does it, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you do that? How do you show the audience what he's doing and yet still have them be tricked? It shows you the craftsmanship that went into this movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's akin to The Wire, where it just doesn't fucking slow down for you. It's like, oh no, we'll show it eventually. We'll show what you saw, but you will not know what you just saw for 5 or 10 more minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's the same with some of the Mike Ehrmantraut sequences in Better Call Saul. Like that same thing where it's like you're watching him like sit there with a rifle for a long period of time, and then somebody come in and they're pulling something off, and then someone else comes in, and then it's like, this is going to come together by the end of the episode. But we're leaving you in suspense to see all the parts, all like the parts that we've separated for you in this way. You know, you're waiting for that all to come together.
Why is Walter White buying an M1 machine gun?
Right.
Yeah.
For me, my favorite moment is tough luck Lonergan, but that's what you get for playing with your head up your ass. Like right at the beginning, he is coming in so fucking hot at that poker table.
Yeah.
And so fucking funny. The poker scene he's so good in the poker scene.
It is a little strange that like this like gangster kingpin doesn't know about Shaw. Right?
Well, because he pulled the job in Florida, didn't he?
But he's running.
And he's laying low in Chicago because like no one's looking for him there.
But the fact that Newman has to play that he doesn't know that this is a killer.
Right.
Right. He has to play.
Oh yeah.
Like Lonergan, whatever he slurs.
Right.
Is just a rich dunce. Right. And he gets to insult him. He gets away with it. Like at least in the scene, right?
Yeah.
He has to spin him into, because who in the world is going to say you're playing with your head up your ass to Doyle Lonergan? You just don't live long enough to say the words. And he has to play it in order to ensnare him. He has to rile him up to that point.
It's just such a fucking inspired scene.
Yeah, it's really great. And like playing drunk is one of those things, as an actor, I can tell you, that like, if you're a bad actor...
He may have actually been drinking. I've seen at least some people say that he was. I don't know how much I buy that, but...
Here are like the two things that I say as an actor are like the hardest to pull off. Being drunk, and then also playing a bad actor.
Yeah.
And they're the top two things that expose you if you are a mediocre to bad actor. Because if you're a mediocre to bad actor, you overplay being drunk so facetiously that no one believes you.
Yeah.
And if you're a mediocre to a bad actor, and you have to, in some role, play a bad actor, you overdo it so it's so hammy and forced that it takes the audience out of the scene. Well, the way that Newman plays being drunk is so convincing.
He's just fucking brilliant. I mean, like, I'm obviously a very big Paul Newman fan, if it wasn't obvious to people. Mm-hmm. Like, Cool Hand Luke's one of my fucking favorite movies.
Well, he's playing a guy being drunk, because in that scene, he's not, he cuts the gin.
Yeah, I mean, he is drinking some, though.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
He's half as drunk as he's supposed to be.
Yes. He has to be sober enough to pull off one of the most deft sleight of hand card tricks with a killer in the room and a henchman.
But we've seen his hands do all of those tricks. And then, fuck up the cards.
With a deck of cards. Yeah.
So, Forrest, though you couldn't remember the film very well, you thought you would still dig The Sting. How did you ultimately feel about The Sting upon your return these many years later?
Yeah, it's just one of those good fucking movies. Like it's the cons are like elegant enough throughout it and intersecting enough that it made me feel pumped to watch it again.
Yeah, Forrest, it's a real treat that Josh and I don't get to enjoy too often, to have a movie kind of this caliber.
We haven't so far.
Right.
I don't even think that I would have if Robert Redford hadn't like passed away, like, because I think like the list of movies obviously would have changed week by week, like trying to think through what movies I haven't seen. So if he hadn't passed away, like I don't think I would have. The Sting wouldn't have been one of the first ones to pop to mind.
And if he hadn't passed away, we could have been talking about Sister Act. I'm just saying. It's potentially possible that we're here talking about Harvey Keitel and Whoopi Goldberg's relationship. So yeah, it's Forrest. Thanks for putting this on your list. It was really nice to go back to 1936 Chicago.
Yeah, I was pleased as punch to rewatch this. So before we say goodbye to listeners at home, where can they find you, Forrest?
Movie Night Extravaganza. Tuesdays, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. We'll be there. We're doing Witches this month. Josh, you're going to be on the 21st, I think, or
28th, I think.
28th.
Yeah, doing The Love Witch, which is going to be fun. Fucking love that movie.
Love Witch, baby.
And is it Bell Book and Candle this week?
Yeah, we're going to do Bell Book and Candle tomorrow, but it'll be up whenever people listen to this.
Yeah. Well, this will be up Thursday, so that'll be the new one for this week that they can watch. And then, what are you doing in between? Oh, Hocus Pocus, and
then I don't know. I gotta go over the list.
It's spooky season, huh?
Yeah,
spooky season.
I should remember. I just listened to the pre-interview.
Yeah, it's Bell Book and Candle, Hocus Pocus, The Vivitch on the 13th, Kiki's Delivery Service, The Love Witch, and then Weapons. Yeah, but it says on the poster it's like a 2 V's.
Yeah, it's a 2 V's.
We always say Vivitch.
That's how we say it here.
Yeah,
that's how you guys say it in New York.
Yeah.
So yeah, Movie Night Extravaganza. Some social media, it's Movie Night Extra. You're one of those two on every social media platform. Always Flacco is your personal account on what? Insta, not Facebook, Insta, Threads,
Insta, and
Blue Sky,
and X,
Twitter,
and X, the everything app.
The everything app that I never go to anymore.
It sucks.
It's fully lost me. I'm never going back.
The race science app.
Well, Forrest, thank you for subjecting your childhood memories to the scrutiny of in this case, entirely
they held
kind
up.
Rewind.
Yeah,
entirely
really
kind rewind.
Let's play some Scott Joplin tonight, guys.
Yep. I've got my copy coming in the mail.
Yeah,
of the Marvin Hamlish soundtrack.
Let's try to send some royalties to that guy.
He's dead, right? So it's
but estate. Like maybe he's got some grandkids or great grandkids that would benefit.
I think he died in 2012.
Oh, I meant Joplin.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh. Well, let's buy the Scott Joplin's career retrospective then.
Yeah.
Well, Forrest, thanks for joining us. Super pumped to have had you on to talk about The Sting.
Anytime.
Thanks, Forrest.
Oh yeah.
That was another installment of the Unkind Rewind, mining our childhood for content, one film from a guest's past at a time. Unkind Rewind is a Munchcasts production and can be listened to wherever you download your podcasts and watched on the Unkind Rewind YouTube channel. Music for this and every other episode of Unkind Rewind was composed by Divorcio Suave. Rate, review, like, and subscribe to Unkind Rewind on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and Good Pods. Links to all of our social media accounts are in our show notes, but you'll find us as @UnkindRewindPod on Letterboxd and nearly every social media platform, all of which can be found at our website, unkindrewind.com. If you have a question, concern, complaint, or feedback, you can email the podcast at unkindrewindpod@gmail.com or call into our call-in line, area code 507-479-6440, and leave a message that can be played on air. Fans should join the Munchcast Discord to discuss this or any other episode of the Unkind Rewind with like-minded people. This dialogue may just make it into a future episode of the pod. The Unkind Rewind Patreon will be coming soon, so start squirreling that pocket change away. Thank you for listening to the Unkind Rewind.